replace QPA.
Right, in your accreditation month, which is nice, we're gonna have a 0 year next year. We'll have some.
Oh, on that?
Do some assessments and identify what we have.
Oh, I didn't even have it on my notes.
For me, it was interesting on two perspectives. One is what it means to actually prepare our candidates. The other is a board member going, oh my gosh.
And we met last week, but I thought if you want someone to come in and visit with you, because that's what I teach ag colleges and let them know what they need to know going to schools and the vision and where we're heading. So I would be happy. I have some materials from the leadership team, but.
That would be good. I had 3 people there.
Oh, okay. Well, you may have what
But
you need.
you'll have it at a different, ours is a high level overview.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
I'd have to do that. But on another conversation, KCIE is changing somewhat.
Next
And we're putting some things, we are having some social health, social some workshops this summer. But we're doing it, we have student teachers, those who were cooperating teachers, we're getting a voucher to come to a workshop for free. Because we can't pay them any more than $50. But we can get
Yeah, right.
on a different, let's set it on a different.
Yeah, right, exactly. That as the agenda.
Yeah, this is what we're working Wow, this is, I couldn't. Did she say this is, yeah, came from the Boy Scouts. They had a question.
How are you, Paul?
Okay. See, Rob Scott had you on as part of his special program he's going to do on your agenda. Rob Scott.
Oh, yeah. Haven't talked to Rob for a while.
Well, he wanted you to be a, talk with him. He's put together. He's already seen transition to work sort of things. Well, if he hasn't talked to you, he's going to. I'd be surprised.
What did she need? It wasn't set up.
It was set up for her, but like this.
Oh, yeah, I know one of my teachers.
Okay, I guess.
I got 2 minutes.
Yeah, usually I'm here about right now, so I'll walk in 1 or 2 minutes ahead.
But I know
You know, it make me feel a little better. Summer's always the last day.
Well, you know, what I'm good is I'm finishing up that last, our faculty member will come in, even this time, they're the faculty, so there. I'll say, I got a problem. Okay.
You got 30 seconds, go.
I wish someone would that. I only need 2 minutes. Okay. 30 minutes later, yeah. I'll bring it up. I was approached by Randy Rogers about the road in Laughlin. The road in Laughlin through the wetlands, well, whatever.
Yeah.
But he wanted to meet with, he just was going to come talk to me tomorrow.
Yeah.
To let you know about that.
We're checking all that.
Okay.
There's a,
2 other talk about that.
if you can't, then there's another plan, so.
Okay. Well, he asked to meet with me, so I'm telling you guys, so you all know.
All right, let's go ahead and call the USD489 Board of Education work session for Monday, March 7th to order. And I'd like to start things off, first of all, by sending our condolences out to the Fonzie and Jacobs families for the tragedies they endured the past week. Our thoughts and prayers are definitely with them as they go through this difficult time. I believe we also had an adjustment for Dr. Martin. I think there was a scheduling conflict between us or whatever. She will actually be here on the board meeting on the 21st to address some things. And let's see here, first item on the agenda is the approval of bills in the amount of $142,782.94. And we will go ahead and vote on this. We have a motion.
So moved.
Been moved by Board Member Waddell,
Second.
seconded by Board Member Lang. Any further discussion? All those, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is the Kansas Early Head Start Home Visitation Grant.
And Donna, do you
I'm
want
here
to,
for that.
yeah, explain a little bit of what?
Okay.
Yeah, if you would.
Actually, the next two items.
You might as well explain both
Yeah,
of them.
I will.
Home visitation and the partnership grant.
Right.
Yes. We currently receive a grant from the Department of Children and Families for Kansas Early Head Start Services. We are currently serving 45 slots. This year, the RFP came out as a competitive grant, and it came out in 2 separate grants this year, as a home visitation grant and then as a child care partnership grant. So the grants that have been submitted before you, one is for a home visitation in the amount of 40 slots, and the child care partnership is in the amount of 15 slots. So the two grants together, we've been asking for an increase of 10 additional families to serve through the grant.
Any questions for
And they just need to make a motion and approve these and
Yes.
for the submittal process.
Yes, they're due prior to the board meeting, so.
Okay, so you just vote on those tonight, we'll
Yes.
both of these?
And you present them to your policy council and then.
Yes, yes,
And these are just basically strictly just to be able to submit the grants?
Yes.
And things like that? Okay. That being the case, I'd go ahead and entertain a motion to allow for the Kansas Early Head Start Partnership Grant to be submitted.
Move to submit the Kansas Early Head Start Home Visitation Grant.
I didn't know if they needed to do them separately. 2 separate. Okay. And I'll go ahead and amend that also to.
Assuming you're going to approve both of them.
Yeah, to include the Head Start Partnership Grant as well. So that's-
I'll move to approve both the Home Visitation Grant and the Early Head Start Partnership Grant.
moved by Board Member Adams,
Second.
seconded by Board Member Waddell. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Don.
All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Nutrition service.
I'm sorry, skipped right over it.
Yeah.
Yep. Nutrition.
Yeah.
Trying to,
You are doing it.
She already had to wait once. Nutrition services point of
I
sale
think you gave her a
software.
heart attack.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right, and I'll let you go over what you have on that, if you would, please.
Okay. We are needing to get a new point of sale system for our nutrition software. The one we have is 8 to 10 years old and running on Windows XP. So it's on its last leg and needs to be updated. Just kind of a little background, the trend in point of sale software is going from a local server-based system to a more web-based hosted system. So it's not on our local servers causing our tech people all sorts of problems. It's hosted on the web and it's a lot more, it updates a lot more frequently, every 30 seconds as opposed to every, 3 times a day. And it's supposed to interface with PowerSchool, so there'll be a lot less manual entry and a lot more computers doing the job. So it'll be a lot more efficient and convenient for the secretaries and our cashiers. we'll still have the online payments for parents. They'll still do the email notifications, and actually that will be more regular, because a human won't have to do it, it'll automatically do it. And then something new, it'll have online applications, so we won't have to send out the paper applications to everyone, which will be nice. They can just go online wherever and complete it, and if they skip a step, it'll tell them, and so that will save a lot of phone calls from our office saying, you skip this, we need this information, which will be a huge convenience for parents who are willing to do or wanting to do that. And then also we'll have paper for those that don't, but so that's kind of a background. We sent our bid to 4 vendors. They're the only 4 nutrition software companies that I'm aware of. And they came back on February 3rd, and you have your little chart of all the costs. I didn't include all the specs just because it's so long. There's just a lot of stuff involved, but the cost is the most important part. Included in the RFP was the software licenses for next school year, and the startup costs, which includes training for our staff and myself and the tech people here. And then if we were to continue this program 5 years, which is the plan, but our contract's only for a year at a time. So we would, if we chose to renew it for the next 5 years, what those each yearly cost would be. And then hardware, it says on here optional, because we could have got hardware from our Kansas contract. We were going to compare the price with that to what the company that we chose gave us, and ultimately we decided that the company gave us a better price. So that is what the bid. The RFP also included. I asked for references, so I contacted other schools in Kansas that use this program, and they have no complaints. They have had great success with it. It works well for them. Some of them smaller, some of them bigger, some of them the same size. But I've talked to multiple districts in Kansas that use it, and it works well. So I guess what I'm asking you is to approve for the Harris School Solutions e-tuition program, the startup cost and hardware, which totals at $23,470.
I would make a motion to approve the Harris School bid in the amount of $23,470.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We're going to open it up for discussion.
This was budgeted going into the school year, correct?
Well, actually, we were going to do it next year, over the next summer, but because of the timing, we'd all decided that it was best to implement it at the end of this school year. So, we have the money. The money is definitely there because we carried over $30,000. Well, $400,000, but anyways, we have the money. So it wasn't budgeted, but we are making enough revenue this year to fund the extra expense.
And all costs will actually be paid out of the food service fund, correct?
Yes.
For this, which we can't use for anything else anyway, so.
Right.
On the
They're
online payment
carryover.
stuff, right now, I know you have to pay a fee. Is there still going to be a fee if they want to do that?
Yes.
Just hoping.
I know. Well, and I've been asked if they can, like at the high school, if they can use credit card, and that gets really complicated. So at this time, it's just going to be, they can pay online with a fee, or they can pay with cash or check at the line.
I think long term, and I understand why they have a fee, but long term, I would love to get it so we could just do it online because, time and.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, somebody has to pay that fee.
Yeah.
So if it's, I mean, right now it's on the parents, you know, I mean, if we get to a point, you know, and do a lot of research and see how much it would actually be where we could eat that cost, you know, we can entertain that, but for this first year, I think we'll keep it the way it is.
And does that include the POS workstations for all the schools then?
Yes.
So that'll take care of all hardware costs for everything?
Mhm. Yep, and we decided to do tablets for the elementary schools because, well, for a couple of reasons. Being plugged into a wall kind of limits where you can have your station at. And if you've ever been in our cafeterias during lunchtime, you can't really, you know, they're not set up that way. And with the new bond issue, if it were to pass and these cafeterias started getting renovated, you know, I mean, who knows where we would need that electrical outlet to be. So, I mean, just for the flexibility of the what ifs of the future, for the elementary schools, we're doing tablets, which are slightly more expensive, but I didn't think it was enough to say not to do it. I think it'll be worth the flexibility in the end.
Probably use one less person to monitor if you.
Yeah.
or you
Well, and that's the
turn
goal,
them
because
on.
only having one person there instead of one person checking the kids in and somebody at the end of the line, making sure that they have a meal, you know, we can eliminate that second person by just having the one secretary there. So that's the goal with that. The high school and middle schools, I think they still need the full, because they need the bigger screen, because there's a lot more buttons that they need to push because of all the extra stuff that they can get.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes, and maybe I don't want to vote on that.
I did not, because I
So,
don't.
let's go.
Sorry.
Five, no, that's fine. 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you. Now we will move to the consent agenda. I don't know if anybody has any discussion or anything on that.
The only thing on there for salvage material is a piano from O'Loughlin that I don't believe is any good, but we'll declare that as surplus at the next meeting and dispose of it however we can.
Next item on the agenda is the technology presentation. Okay, Renee Bergen.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so today what we are presenting on, hopefully my phone will turn back on here. One thing that we have talked about a lot as an administrative team as well as the board is when we make that jump into the digital world of what that's going to look like for parents and that type of communication. So I know we have had someone previously presented on a project through an app called Seesaw, and what we would like to do today is showcase what it can look like from the parent standpoint, the teacher standpoint, and the student standpoint. So tonight with me I have our second grade teacher, Mrs. Burns, and our student guest is Carly Damel. And one thing that we want to talk about a lot, this was something that kind of bothered me a little bit as a mom, and Mrs. Burns really jumped into the whole Seesaw app. First it was more for projects and things like that and showcasing student work, and then sent out to the parents an invitation, and I'll let her talk a little bit more about that. And then Carly's going to talk a little bit about what it means for her as the student to add work into Seesaw and be able to share some of those things. So we're going to kind of hit all three viewpoints tonight. So Mrs. Burns, I'll let you talk a little bit
Thank you
about
for the
that.
opportunity for this. That means a lot.
What I love about Seesaw is that it's very little effort on my part. I'm kind of the middleman, and what I like about it is that I can step back and she can communicate with her parents without anything from me. So if she's taking a spelling test and she wants to share that, she just screenshots it and puts it in her folder on Seesaw, and parents will get a notification right away. I love that part of it. Lately, we just had a parent competition through it, which was really fun to bring the parents into the classroom. We had them guess how many books we have read for the entire year so far, and we had all sorts of guesses, and then so they were communicating. Yeah, he did lose. But it was nice because they were all interacting with the children throughout the day. They weren't there, obviously, in the classroom, but we were going back and forth, and so that was a really cool thing that we did. Another thing that I like is that it gives the students an audience for their writing and for their videos that they're making. So that's all posted on there, and parents can see it and they can comment on it as well and ask further questions. So we did like solids, liquid, and gases, and so the students did a little experiment, and they kind of, it's like a, if you've seen like a YouTube channel with children, it's kind of what it is, and she has like her own name. I don't remember what it is, but
Walnut Science Chick.
yes, so she has her own name, and she opens every video with this name, and then she explains it, which with the Common Core Standards, science has completely changed, and so being able to explain the process and for them to discover on their own, this app has really done a great job of allowing us to do that. I use it as a core app, and what I mean by that is that I can pretty much assess and work on any Common Core standard through this app. So with their grammar, I don't let them post anything. Well, I try not to let them post anything that is missing punctuation or capitalization, and so they have to go back and edit, so they're getting better at that. Another thing that I really like, sorry, I have a whole list of things that I like. I like that throughout the entire year, it's a collection of their work. And you can see their progress that they're making, and parents can see that. So if they're reading a fluency, like they're reading a book, and we're checking for fluency, it can be, you know, the beginning of the year, it's kind of a little choppy, and then later every month we do it, and it's just, you can see the progress. And so I like it for that aspect as well. Sorry, I'm going fast. On the snow day, I put their spelling words on there so I can communicate even then, and parents get notifications on that. I also did a little video at home where I knew we were going to do shapes in class that next week, and we hadn't talked about shapes at all for math. And so I made a little video of my TV stand in my living room, and I said, extra credit if you can find rectangles this weekend. And so I just kind of used the vocabulary and kind of front-loaded that vocabulary. There's so many more other things, but probably what you guys need to know is I have 100% participation with the parents, because this allows, it's supported by iOS, Android, Kindle, Chromebooks, Firefox, and Chrome. So pretty much if you have internet, all parents are able to access it. It's very safe. The way that I get parents to do it is through a QR code or through an email directly to me. So the only way you can access it is if you are invited by the teacher. So it's a lot safer than like a Facebook page or something like that. So that's all.
So and from the parent side, the setup was very easy. The code came home with her, and we just had to scan it. There was about 4 steps to have to be able to set up her account. And if you have multiple children and all those classrooms are using Seesaw, you can add them all onto one account, which is really beneficial for parents to kind of have everyone collectively in the same place. And the other thing is I only have access to what Mrs. Burns posts to everyone and what Carly posts. I don't have access to any other students' projects or activities or anything like that. So, you know, the safety of other students' work is also protected. And then I get an email each time that something is posted on her journal, and then I can access it. And then, so Carly's just going to show, this is what shows up on, this is what it looks like inside of her Seesaw. So if this video is posted, Carly, what would you do?
So I'm going, so Mrs. Burns posted it for a kid, and she has to get it on her screen, and she can't approve it or not approve it. So on this one,
And I am noticing that there are shapes everywhere around me. I can't believe it. The very
So
first
as
shape
Mrs.
that
Burns
came up
posts this
would be the
2-minute video at home, it comes to me automatically in the evening, and I can pull this up on my phone or her iPad at home, and we are able to talk about this lesson and pre-teach a little bit before she even has this lesson in math, which is really awesome. And plus, the students that see this now, who maybe have parents who aren't as involved or as active in looking at things and looking through folders, this has really upped the has really upped the involvement, because now the kiddos are coming home and saying, did you see my seesaw? Did you see what I put on there? Did you see this? So we're able to do pre-teaching at home with the support of the teacher and knowing what shapes they need to be looking for. And then we have a whole discussion in our own home of where these shapes are. So there's several things that we have done. And then, are we doing the science video? And then, so what they're done a lot in science, when we were talking to, or they, I say we, but our second grade was talking about matter. All the different types of matter that they went through, they did little videos, little projects, and that all was uploaded into Seesaw. And so, Carly, go back up to that, just a little right there. So Mrs. Burns demonstrates to them what a solid, liquid, and gas looks like, and then the students recreate this on their iPad and take a picture of, I'm not sure, was it Screenshot that you used, or what?
Notability.
Notability. So they're using another app. They are showing and demonstrating what they're learning in science, which is really cool. And it's very interactive, because every one of those little dots that she does, she had to put all of those on there. And then tell us a little bit about that slide.
so on the solid, it's just like all dots everywhere because they're all bunched in. And on the liquid, it just flows everywhere. And on the gas, it just...
And what I love is that during the day, the parents get on there and ask questions, and then the kids then go and explain further. I love that part of it.
Yes, so you can show your video of your balloon. And what's really neat about this is she uploads all of this herself.
Yeah.
The students do most of the videotaping with each other's iPads. They airdrop to each other, and then Carly puts it into her own journal. So it really takes, Mrs. Burns does have to preview all of them because of the way we have the safety settings set. But during the course of a school day, there is not time to videotape each child. So we've really relinquished control to the students, and this is becoming a very student-centered classroom in more subjects than just science, but her spelling, all of that. And that was one big thing with spelling, and we went to Spelling City, and even when I had my own classroom, we would go in and the students would take the test online, but I had no way to get that information to the parents. So what did we do? We printed off the results and we sent that piece of paper home. So we're still using that paper. Well, we take that aspect away, and she's able to upload a picture of her results, and it comes right to me immediately. So, which has been a little bit in the beginning, it was kind of hard to accept that as a parent, that nothing was coming home. And it's like, I have the luxury of walking down the hall and seeing, but not every parent has that. So to have this form of communication has made a huge impact. Which is something that I know we all worried about, of how the parents were still going to know what's going on and that sort of thing. And Mrs. Burns and her students have really embraced this whole digital world and how to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. Okay, first place.
You made this video for us?
I am Lucky Science Carly, and I am going to teach you how to blow up your balloon by...
Try again.
Yay! I am Lucky Science Carly.
And this is another second grader filming, so.
Yeah, her head's chopped off half the time.
That's okay.
This
This is kind of early in our...
Here we have vinegar, and this is
A couple brought them. They And what I loved about this was that a lot of their videos, they got to this point, but then they couldn't explain what happened. So then I knew that I had to go back and explain that process, because in their videos, they didn't do a very good job of explaining what happened then. It was just really cool, but not much more after that. So I did have to reteach some of that.
But there's a lot of feedback that goes
Yeah.
on with that, because we're hitting a lot of standards, not only science, but
Yeah.
speaking and listening. And then, that partnership between the two of them, and then the reflection for the teacher to be able to go. And then I get to see this, and I would never see that without this tool in the classrooms. Because sometimes parents come in and we have very good parent involvement, and they come in volunteer in classrooms, but by and large, we're going to miss out on all of this stuff. So this has just been a very valuable
So
tool.
we are all done.
So Carly, can you take a picture and show them how easy it is to upload into your Seesaw?
They learned about habitats. She was part of the African grassland habitat.
Okay. Can you explain it as you're doing it?
So I press this little paper with the arrow, and there's seesaw on it, so I press that, and then there's my name. I'm a little doggy. And I press a check, and yay!
And it's been uploaded, and then go back into your...
And then from my standpoint, I didn't have to go and approve it before anyone else can see it.
And then just click on where it says new item.
Oh.
There you go. So it shows her what she's trying to post, and that it's waiting for approval. And as soon as Mrs. Burns approves it, it pops to my phone, and I see what she has just uploaded. So this is probably something, we have a lot of different things, a lot of trials going on of what is the best form of communication from parents, but this is a free app, and I think that we've kind of hit a home run with using this, and the way that parents are able to be involved in their students' classroom is pretty amazing. And we've had a lot of positive feedback from the parents in the classroom. So thank you for the opportunity to show that how we are still able to make sure that parents are thoroughly involved in our classrooms, even though we have made that big leap into the digital world. So
how'd you like getting home up on snow day? You like it?
I don't really know.
Carly, can I ask you a question? So do you have an iPad at home then too?
Yeah.
Different than the one at school? So do you have like a lot of the same apps that you use at school on your one at home then? And do they have the same account, or is it a different account, or how does that work?
Well, it depends on, it's the same account, but it doesn't matter what device it is. So they could be on a phone or any of those that are supported by Seesaw, which is pretty much everything. As long as they have that, they can just go to a website, even just the website, and get on it that way. Yeah, and post through that.
But like the kids, like when you're at home, Carly, your iPad looks different at home than it does at school.
yes.
And you don't, your Seesaw is just one example.
Yes.
But there are some limitations.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they can't log into their account, their school account on their home device.
Right.
Right. On some of the, although like Reflex Math and different
Web-based.
things like that are web-based,
Web-based, yeah.
they actually both have them on their personal iPads at home. So they have Lexia, not Lexia, we haven't put Lexia on ours, but we have Epic, the book reading, Reflex Math. What else are some things that you have at school that you have at home? Spelling City, Moby Max, Raz Kids. As long as we have their login information from the teacher, they're able to access a lot of the programs that we use on a daily basis at school, math facts, all of those things. So they do homework and don't know they're doing homework, which is kind of fabulous. But
She was just doing it earlier.
yes,
She was.
So, any other questions for any of us?
Mrs. Burns, do you, like in the second grade section then, do you feel like you guys using a lot of the same apps, or is each teacher?
No,
personally their own path?
we kind of all started with Canvas, which is different in many ways, but kind of the same. And then I kind of started experimenting with blooms, and we kind of went that way. And I didn't like that as much because I had to put everything on there, so whatever they were doing, I had to get it to me and then put it and then shove it out there. So this I love because I am completely out of the picture and they can do it all themselves. I just have to approve it. That has been the only complaint that I have had from parents that have multiple children, is that everyone's using something different. So it's just overwhelming to them.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. And everyone has said
Well, I think
Seesaw
that
is their favorite as far so far.
Yeah, so, any other questions?
So, are you going to become a scientist?
I have no idea.
If you saw her book reviews, you would think drama queen. I mean, which you probably got that from the science, but she will be an actress someday.
Think about the science.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Good job, guys.
All right, next item on the agenda is the digital learning presentation.
Marie Scott.
Marie may come up, we're all gonna join in if I can get this back up on there. There we go. We just wanted to give you an update on where we are with the digital learning, the progress. I know the technology presentations we've had at work sessions and board meetings have been great testimonials, and you can see that we are using the technology and we want to showcase those things. We did, though, just a reminder that we had some goals that were outlined in the digital learning plan and talked about some ways to measure it as well. And so on the presentation that was attached, we just highlighted some of those goals as a reminder that, and we do have a digital learning committee that met early January, and we reviewed these goals and looked at some of the measures and kind of get some input on what direction we want to move. And so we'll plan to meet again at the end of the year. But again, part of with the technology and the initiative, we want to really focus on learning and what that looks like. So part of the goals are developing those instructional practices, achieving some student outcomes by active student engagement. I think you saw that very well tonight, how engaged the students are with the use of technology. Also ensure that students are technology literate by the end of 8th grade. We want to encourage effective integration of technology by providing training, looking at curriculum development, so we have some best practices in place. And then again, provide that staff development for instructional staff on how to integrate. And Marie's position has been integral in that. Measures, this was a whole list of the measures. We talked about our walkthrough tool, had ways to look at student engagement, Bloom's, higher level thinking skills, how technology is being used. We talked about how well our teachers utilizing the software online programs that we have available. Are there reports that we can generate from the copy machine? That was one of the things when we talked about being paper aware. Assessments of student achievement was a measure. The one I put in yellow, we talked to the committee about, we really don't have something in place. We need to develop probably by a survey or maybe add it to the walkthrough tool, but mainly making sure kids are doing and that we're looking at different venues of their learning, the outcome, digital portfolios, projects, essays. We saw that example with the videos. So it's happening out there. We just need to find a good measure for that. And then our teachers asking for new technologies, and Marie has some information on app requests and things that our teachers are asking, some feedback from our professional development. We think it's important to look at that. And then part of graduation cohort data, we'll add those pieces in. The ed tech profile we took at the end of last year, we'll take it again at the end of this year and see if our the feedback has moved in the right direction. And then Scott Tech ticket submissions, you have some information on that. We thought, are we using the technology? What do the tech tickets look like? That can give us some really good feedback. This first graph, I'm just going to share some of the data that I included, then Marie and Scott can add theirs. From the walkthrough data, you can see student engagement just from last year's first semester to this year's first semester. There's not anything that's, glaring, but we have a high student engagement, always we have. And so it was kind of hard to go up, but you can see in that 75 to 89% the gold would be this semester, we're a little bit higher there. But again, that's just comparing last year's first semester to this year, and the technology was new the first semester. But we feel like we've had high student engagement, and we've talked about that as an admin team, really trying to be consistent with what that looks like. Because do we just have compliant kids, or are they actually engaged? But those are some conversations we have.
I just had a question on your bottom scale. Is that percent, number of incidents?
Percent.
That's on the bottom here is percent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you determine engagement?
Engagement, and that's what we've talked about with part of the admin team, is that the kids they're actively engaged would be, eyes on paper. You have to look at some nonverbal signs that they're actually involved, not just sitting there being complacent. But also then asking students if they're asking questions, if they're part of a discussion. So those are things that we've talked about in the admin team. And we even looked at some different definitions, and that's something we're continuing to look at, just to make sure that they are engaged and not just being compliant and good kids, and not really sure that they're turned on though.
A lot of times, the administrator may ask a student, what are you working on today? And if they tell you, oh, this is what we're doing, they're pretty engaged. If you get the, I don't know.
Yeah.
They're probably not real engaged, so that's, yeah.
Yeah. And then one of the other things we wanted to look at is the level of thinking with Bloom's taxonomy. And you can see the bottom two, receiving and applying, went down the first semester of this year. And then the higher, analyzing, evaluating, creating, we're moving in the right direction. So through our walkthroughs first semester, we felt like kids were reaching some higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And again, this is just first semester with the new technology, but we'll continue to track this. So we just wanted to give you an idea of what the measures will look like and how we'll continue to update and share that with you.
And just a question, are you looking at the assignment type they're doing, or how are you determining that?
The task that they're doing, right. The walkthrough, you remember, is just like 5 minutes. The principals are in, it's a snapshot of what's happening. Yeah, that's what the walkthrough tool is. It's 5 minutes where they're in the classroom and they're out, and so they just get a snapshot. And then the more they do it, they try to get in at different times, put all that together. So this is just district whole. It could be broke down by buildings. Principals have a chance to look at it by their building and then how it compares to the district, so that they can do some staff development in their buildings. But this is the task that they happen to be involved in when they walk in for those 5 minutes.
All right.
And then not observed would be another one if, they're just, those are always options because it's hard to know. Some instructional materials we were able to look at. This was on the walkthrough tool. What kind of instructional materials are being used in worksheets versus software and web-based? And you can see there's been a drop in the worksheets and an increase in what the students are, the instructional materials being used. So that was a good sign as well. One of the other, on the walkthrough tool is, how's the technology being used? Is it used to enhance? Is it just being used in general? Are you not observing it? Or perhaps there's times where it's not applicable. Like if you're in a PE class and they're doing fitness tests, then technology isn't always applicable to the situation. So that's kind of a judgment call that the evaluator makes. But that's how we compare from last year first semester to this year. And then STAR assessments, again, we do want to look at our assessments and how our students achieve. Again, just after a first semester, it's hard to probably draw any big conclusions that the technology is tied to directly. We did see an increase in math reading was held about the same, but just wanted to share that with you, that we will continue to add to these and report back. And then Moby Max is one of the programs Renee mentioned. It's an online program with different curriculum. And you can see there, I was not able to just compare last year first semester to this year first semester. So the 2014-15 are higher in some, but that's all of last year. And the 2015-16 was the day we sent this out. I think I updated here in February. So you can see, I think we will exceed the lessons completed We just aren't done with the school year yet. We are ready, as far as assessments completed, have outdone last year for the entire year, even though it was only in February. And then it's hard to tell the teachers registered, but we do have a few more teachers who are registered. And we will evaluate the programs, the software, to see what's being used, what's not, what do we want to continue, because there's a lot of things we want to add. Well, you know, there's only so much in the budget and so much you can do, and so we will be evaluating the programs if they're being used to their full potential. If not, do we want to let some of them go and have we found something else? Like Splash Math may be one of the new math interventions we do instead of Reflex Math. But we're gathering input from teachers, and we will evaluate those things. This was just the early release in October was on technology. Basically, that was that was the focus. We had it look different at the high school than it did at the middle school than at some of the elementaries. But you could see along the bottom, that's what we asked. We asked if the objectives were clear, if their participation was encouraged, if the topic seemed relevant, was it organized, easy to follow, did you gain some knowledge, and then in the end, were those objectives met, and then how would you, do you need additional training, and then there was something about how they could take it back to their classroom. But basically, if you look at the colored graph there, we have a lot strongly agree and agreed. So we felt like we had some positive feedback from staff on the early release, which we do look at and try to help guide the next time, and where you use some of that probably to help plan some of your sessions.
Right.
And we could do this through my learning plan. It was something we always could get feedback on as part of my learning plan, but we had never tapped into it. So I know here this past year, Marie and I, and even Joanne, whenever we do, when we offer something, in order to get your PDC points, you have to do an evaluation. And so that's part of that's just becoming more common now for our teachers, because it's so important to get that feedback so that we can take that and design, you know, the next professional development, or know what the needs are. And then early release, in November we gave them, a lot of the feedback in October said, okay, you've thrown a lot at us with technology, we just need time to work and collaborate together. So that's what we gave them on November 4th, time to, and it was structured, they met somewhere, and there were some structure to it, but basically there was a lot less feedback because it wasn't new information. We gave them time, and you can see that they truly appreciated having the time, the collaboration time to work with initiatives, and they felt like it would be useful in the classroom. So we're trying to stay consistent with what we asked them so that we can compare those, but we asked less here just because it wasn't new information we were feeding them. We were giving them some time with the technology. And then Canvas, I'll let Marie talk to you about some of the next slides. Canvas is one of those learning management we piloted at the middle school and high school, last year in the spring. And we got some good feedback, so that's when we decided to move forward with it. And we worked a lot with it, Marie. So.
Yeah, so we've had an extremely strong implementation. You can see there at the high school, the lime green bar is the number of assignments that have been given to students via Canvas. This was just through December 19th when we finished off for Christmas. So does not include any of second semester. You can see we have 77 courses that were active at that time. I'll tell you we have more now. And then the media recording is an option that it really, well, what you just saw with the younger kids with Seesaw, Canvas also has an option for doing that with older kids. So they have an opportunity to turn in work, to turn in video, to turn in audio, to turn in digital media in such a way that they can truly explain their understanding, that they can demonstrate how they've applied their knowledge, that they can do some of those things. So that's how that's being utilized. You can see the elementary did not get super excited about Canvas, although at O'Laughlin, where Mrs. Burns teaches the 3rd through 5th grade at O'Laughlin, really did embrace it and has really done some neat things and would tell you, well, several of the teachers have shared with me they don't know how they would deliver their content without Canvas. But that's not been the case at all the elementaries. So we're moving away.
And Canvas, I think why at the middle school and high school you see it higher is because the high school has been one-to-one before, obviously
Sure.
the rest of the district, and they were using Moodle. And Moodle was a free online management, but it had issues and the tech support for that. There's a reason it was free. So they had been doing this building classes, online sharing
Blended
between
learning.
kids for a long time. And then the middle school had embraced Moodle as well. And so we expected and knew that it was mainly a 6-12 purchase, but we were able to add the elementary this year, kind of as a pilot. So it was just a way to say, here, does this work for you? But they have different needs, obviously.
They do.
And so some of them, as you see, are using AirDrop or other ways to share it, or Seesaw.
Right.
And so we just wanted to give them some time to explore. We did offer some Canvas trainings, though, and so those teachers who embraced those and attended those more likely were able to go back and put it in their classroom and implement it.
Right.
So where we see low numbers, especially at a lot of the elementary schools, it's still being accomplished in other
Right.
ways.
They've just chosen another tool. You know, Canvas
What-
was not
what
the right
tool-
tool for
what
them.
tool
Well, like what
should
you
they
saw
use?
with Seesaw to some
What
extent.
should they use?
We actually purchased we call it purchasing. It was a free app, like she talked about. But we purchased that K-8. So we have classrooms in each building now using Seesaw. So they're delivering content in that manner. They are doing a lot of airdropping. I don't know how much. I don't know if you guys understand, but is that you're nodding? Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. A lot of teachers simply deliver by airdropping. You know, if you need the PDF I have on my iPad, I airdrop it to yours, and off we go. Right. So Canvas kind of is a slicker format for doing that. So is Seesaw, but AirDrop is another platform teachers are using.
Right.
Right. We have some K1-2 teachers that are using handouts. That's also not been the greatest option as it has had some tech, and it's cheap. It's had some tech bugs that they've moved away. Some teachers have moved away from it as well. I don't actually, to be completely honest with you, I'm still talking to districts. I'm going to the tech integration meeting this Friday at SDAC in Hutch. I talked to Goodland this morning. We're still trying to find the right thing. Especially 3-5. K1 and 2, a lot of what they're doing with their iPad is the digital media part. I mean, it is the creation, and I'm going to talk about what apps have been purchased here shortly, but, they're not delivering content in the same manner that the middle school and high school deliver content. You know, it's not a practice sheet of 20 problems when you're in first grade. That's not what content looks like, and that's not what student work looks like. So they use the iPads in different ways, with different apps, different means, right? And some of that is what you saw there with their using Seesaw to collect those things. Even teachers, though, that aren't using Seesaw to collect them are still doing them. Are they still doing the science video? Yeah. Are they still doing that note? You know, you saw her note and notability where she had the column of solids and the column. Yes. Did they collect it and share it with parents? I don't know. But those are things they're still doing. They have all those same apps. So does that make sense? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're telling me that the same features are being distributed throughout the district still and it's being utilized, then yes. So Canvas we should look at for the high school and middle school.
Yes, and that's the direction we're going. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. Okay, so this is actions taken in a Canvas course, meaning they took a link, or they watched a video, or they downloaded an assignment, or they uploaded their work. So you can see that for first and second 9 weeks. Huge jump there, if you'll notice in the middle school, second 9 weeks. I mean, they really got on board. Some of our middle school staff just kind of, you know, they were hesitant there in the first, and even over the summer, they were like, I'm not sure what this would look like. And we had some new middle school staff that weren't experienced with Moodle. They hadn't used a blended learning environment at all. So they were like, Canvas, what am I going to do with this? I don't even know, and they started collaborating with each other. We had that October in-service where they did early release, where we worked on Canvas, and then the November where they collaborated with each other, and it just skyrocketed. You can see over twice as much action in Canvas their second 9 weeks. So that was exciting. And then Pages View, this is literally that they went from, they opened the app and viewed something. They didn't take a link or anything, but they opened the app. So Gizmos is another app that the kids have. Of course, this is 6 through 12, so the 9 through 12 students, or high school students, are utilizing this via the Gizmos website, but the middle school students are doing this with an app. Of course, it's a web-based app, so apples and apples there, basically.
It's a grant that, so it's free to us this year, and they provide some professional development days, and so we aren't able to, one drawback is we can't go in and look at the data, they have to send it to us.
Yeah, we're not really
We just got an update today, but they, our teachers are using it and our numbers are going up, so we will talk about Gizmos, and we know what science materials, and especially aligned with the next generation, we don't have materials, haven't had, and so if this is something they're interested, we'll look to budget that, but they're pretty positive about it.
It's an interactive program such that, you don't just have like force equals mass times time or whatever your formula is. Like it actually interacts. Okay, if I change force, what happens? Yeah, that's not the right formula. Dr. Adams, I'm sorry. I was not a science major. I don't even know.
Sorry.
But if you change a variable in your equation, what is going to happen to your other quantities? And it interactively shows you what's occurring. So here's the app data. Types of apps pushed. You can see there ELA and math. And then student work, I basically categorize that as anything where, like Notability, where a student is taking notes or collecting their ideas, or like Seesaw, where again they're collecting and then sharing their ideas. Canvas also would be categorized as a student work app. The Screen Chomp that they talked about a little, that Renee talked about just a moment. There, it would be a student work app. It's an interactive whiteboard at the 3rd through 8th grade level. We have an interactive whiteboard app called Doceri, where a student can not only demonstrate their work, but they can record their voice over the top of it and turn it in that way, demonstrate their understanding, knowledge of content. And then we have collaboration and creationism apps. And then I had 9 that I didn't know where to put there, but so I categorized as other. But we've had over 80 at this point app requests that have been pushed out to student devices.
Is there a reason you got 22 ELA apps? Is that because of different grade levels?
Yeah, different grade levels picking different things. Yeah, to some extent, and then also just that we've had some. Free for a time reading apps. You can read so much for free. Well, then you've exhausted the free part. So then we've gotten another, and we can read so much for free. And then we've done that with a couple different ones. So that has bumped that one a little bit. But then also just the if you go to the next slide, you'll see the kindergarten. Kindergarten has requested probably the most apps.
I was going to say literacy is just
right.
huge,
Literacy, yes, because there's so many.
The ELA would be reading, writing, spelling, grammar. I mean, you're just
right. So you've got all your spelling apps. You have all your sight word apps. You have all your grammar and all those things. Anything with writing, I included in that ELA. So you almost have 4 subjects that you're including in one when you call it ELA, which is why that's probably higher than some of the others. But there it is, divided out by grade level. So.
And then there was a little information on tech tickets that we included.
Yeah, went back, pulled basically July went on, just I guess more looking at the fiscal year. I don't know that there was too many tickets, I wanted to catch as we came out of summer and into the beginning of the year, everything there. But obviously our high spots are the Hayes Highs, or Hayes High and Hayes Middle. We've got basically one tech full-time at the high school, and then a tech part-time at the middle school, and then covers the elementaries in the afternoon, and then we kind of cover where else. So trying to structure techs around tickets, and it's kind of a mixed match on what's coming in. Kind of depends on what's going on at that time. You know, we had a spike in iPad tickets around the 9.2 release that broke everything. So it just kind of is what's going on at that time, depending on tickets.
Yeah, and if you push a new app, then there may be issues with that. So then we're
Tickets
having
with that app.
So it's interesting to
So, I
kind of
mean,
see the patterns.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say definitively that there's one major issue that's not being addressed. It just kind of comes in cycles.
It rolls around.
But yeah, let's say we've done over 2,000 tickets since July 1, so keep them busy.
And just a question, are those mostly, do you have any hardware issues or more software compatibilities?
It's a mixed match. Software, yes. Hardware, if we're into hardware issues, it's having to do with K8 machines, the HPs, you know, or kind of hit that age. And so a lot of times, you know, it's a fan or something goes out, we end up plucking the hard drive out of that, dropping it in another HP and handing it back to them.
And those are mainly teacher machines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's about the fastest way to, you know, get a machine back in their hands. But, you know, there's some teachers that have gone through 3 or 4 machines this year just because it's faster for us to pluck the hard drive and drop it in than to diagnose on a lot of them. But I'd say if we had hardware, that's where a lot of the hardware tickets are at. iPads, not so much there. I do have, and what's not shown in this number, the 2,100, students do not submit tech requests. So this is strictly just requests
This is
coming from
staff.
staff. Now, a staff member can submit a ticket saying, no, that this student's iPad's not working.
Right.
But just for, you know, Hayes High, for instance, the traffic just through the CCU out there to see Josh. I started, I think it was, I want to say January. He keeps track of that, just his daily interactions in an Excel spreadsheet, you know, that I helped this student with this, or, you know, this teacher came in with this. We're trying to, you know, the teachers have done a real good job of putting in tickets, or, you know, even if they catch me in the building, if it's a 5-minute fix, I don't mind stopping to do it, but, you know, haven't put in a ticket, so it still shows and registers in the system. But I do have him keeping logs of their student traffic, so we can see that as well.
Okay.
So we just wanted to share ways that we are tracking, and we'll continue to build and measure and send or report back as we get more of the information.
Was the Bloom's taxonomy, was that only at the high school?
No, that was all district,
K-12.
the K-12.
So why would applying and receiving knowledge go down?
Hopefully because,
Especially as you've got a fully integrated.
Well, because they're doing more rather than sitting and getting,
Right.
which was one of the goals. That's what we would want to see, is that they're doing more analyzing, evaluating, and creating with the devices versus just sitting and doing the lower level. So we do want to see those, the top 2 there increase and less. And not that they're still not appropriate times to receive the knowledge and apply, but one of our goals in the digital learning plan is become less consumers and more creators. And so this is one way we feel like we can get a handle or see, which also goes with engagement and higher level thinking and complex skills. So that's what we're hoping the numbers show. I mean, time will tell.
right.
It's not that they're still not receiving some, but then they may have to do more with it, turn around and then apply, evaluate, create, go to a higher level with it.
And just related to that, you differentiated by grade level with that? Because I'm thinking of the Bloom's, you know, the principals are looking at the middle elementary for a certain age appropriate at those levels, but I'd be interested if it's differentiated by bands possibly?
Well, we could do the high school, middle school, and then probably select all four of the elementary.
As a band,
Drill it
just
down
do
a
those
little
3 bands,
bit. Yeah,
break it out.
could drill it down a little bit more.
And is there anything you can do, because as you pointed out, you know, I'm also glad to see the shift from the applying to analyzing, evaluating. Anything to try to promote the creating part?
Well, actually, we took 22, I think, 22 staff members to Manhattan. Mrs. Damon went with us, and Mrs. Rifle, and did another administrator go? Is that it? Yeah. And then 20 teachers, and myself. Okay, 19 teachers and myself, and went to Manhattan, and almost. Well, a large portion of that day that we spent on K-State's campus, the apps were designed to be creation apps. I mean, it was, the overarching theme of the day was creating with digital media. And going away from the sit and get and the consumerism and towards the kids being the creator of knowledge. And did you want to add to that, Shannon?
That's actually where I got Seesaw from,
Yeah.
was that day in Manhattan, and gave that to Mrs. Burns and asked her to look into that. So, and something that we have been doing in faculty meetings is we're doing an app smackdown. And so we're taking an app from that PD in Manhattan, totally stole it from them, and just kind of recreated things that are applicable within our building. And Ms. Gano, our tech person, or myself, kind of give a 3 to 5 minute overview of the app and how it can be used in the classroom for students. And so we're, over time, as we learn more about the apps and more apps that allow us to create, we've got to get that to the teachers. So that's one way that we're working on, getting those types of apps into the hands of the teachers. Some of that's just going to take time. A lot of, in the beginning, it's learning how to use it, getting the kids comfortable. Just the growth from the kiddos in Seesaw from January to now has been a huge improvement. So those are just some things that it's just going to take a little bit of time to just continue to push those creating apps into their hands.
Well, and then also our March we lost our February early release to Snow Day, but our March early release, the teachers who were not involved in the running records training, K-5, they actually went through 3 or 4 trainings on 3 or 4 of the creation apps that we learned about in Manhattan were presented to them. So we utilized early release time there on creation apps. The middle school, same story, 6 through 8. I don't know if Craig wants to chime in, but
yeah, they
he
went
does.
through 5 different apps at the last early release, and they just worked around the different groups. So.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they were all what I would call creating apps, wouldn't you, Craig? Yes.
So, and the teachers that were part of the tech cadre. So if you remember when we talked about it, it was really important to make sure that with the professional development and what we're going to do, we have a cadre in each building, and then they go and learn, and then they are the ones who teach and share at those early release days. So it's train the trainer model, so they're the ones who went, and now they are sharing and they're learning from each other on those collaboration days. And we've talked about doing some things this summer, having our own. Last year we sent a lot of teachers to Victoria for the iPad Academy, that type of thing. And so that's been great and will still probably be great, but we're looking at offering some things for our own teachers or opening up to others. So Marie's looking at some of those things. So it's exciting. It's not just one thing fit all. I mean, we have options. Teachers get to choose what they want to do. And again, we have a lot of the teachers doing the ELA training because we know it's not all about technology. There are a lot of other things we need to move forward in the district, but it's nice to have a balance and have it meet the needs of those teachers and what they need at that time.
Definitely. And then we've had teachers attending trainings after school in the last month. We've had more than 30 teachers attend 5 or 6 after school trainings just in February. And I have more coming up in March. Of course, spring break will derail that to some extent. But so, we have teachers even still just like they did this summer, giving of their free time. They're not getting paid to come. They come because they want to learn new things, because they want to implement new things in their classrooms. And they didn't all get to go to Manhattan, and they don't all get to come to every train, you know, but they're committing their own time to doing those things. It's really exciting.
Teachers are getting more excited about it.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
seeing how it's being applied. They're talking about it. They're working together. So it's doing exactly what we had hoped. It's
Right.
going to continue to expand and be more effective.
Oh, and Mark, what you said about showing each other and working with each other, you know, the training, I led training at the high school on this last early release on Wednesday, on Canvas, actually. All the rest of that, all the middle school training, all the creation apps, that was all teacher-led, all of it. And those were teachers who gave of their free time to prepare to lead. They didn't get released to prepare for those trainings. They prepared of their own volition for those trainings. And they brought their own student work and shared it with their colleagues.
Okay, so back to Bloom's taxonomy.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about the shift and analyzing, evaluating, and creating being two of our goals to get to. But is receiving, so is this just based on apps? Is this all that is?
No, that's based on the walkthrough tour.
That's based on the task.
They could not even be on technology and some
No,
of
yeah.
that, honestly.
So where do we move? Like, because to me, it's a process. So number one, you have to learn, which is receiving knowledge. Number two, you have to learn how to take that knowledge that you receive and apply it to whatever it is you're trying to do.
It's
and then
a
you continue to
ladder.
build and do analyzing, evaluating, and creating.
Right.
So as we've shifted with one-to-one to our elementary schools, it's still odd that we wouldn't see, so are we not using technology to promote information to the kids?
I think it's
so,
a,
'cause it's
no,
still
yeah.
high. Applying and receiving are more than the others.
But we
so
didn't
it's
have
still-
one-to-one in the elementary schools prior.
Right, so
Right.
we look, so they weren't able to analyze and create and get to those higher levels. So there's a trade-off just with time. But I know that they are still giving them knowledge, applying it. I don't know how much of that is with technology or more face-to-face, because remember, it's a balance. This isn't all just when they're using technology, but they're definitely receiving content and understanding and then asked to move to the next level.
And then some of it's what Renee talked about just now with that she was able to upload that video that they looked at home, and she front-loaded some of that knowledge with the video on rectangles to them at home, and then was able to build on that in class. So consequently able to go further with it, to dig deeper, to analyze and evaluate and create, because they were able to look at some of those things before
Which is a lot
class.
of the blended learning.
Right,
they
which is
get
kind of the
for
blended learning thought
home-
process.
Homework is they receive the information and then they
Right.
come and create and do where the teacher's there to facilitate in the classroom. So that's part of the blended learning too, rather than, they get it and then they have to go do it on their own. It's kind of a switch to that where their homework is getting the information up front and then they do more in class with the teacher able to assist. So, again, it's something we'll monitor. It's go ahead, Shannon.
Another thing here, like, I'll look at, and keep going back to Seesaw, but on here, they're doing a poetry unit, and so on here is the picture of the poetry page. So what she did was upload it into her iPad and then push it to all the students' iPads, and so the students were able to annotate over the text. So they're still receiving that knowledge, but they're doing it on the iPad, which allows them to be able to analyze this text via the iPad versus on a piece of paper. And so most of her ELA is that way. Either she pushes it through Notability, our older grades 3 through 5 are pushing it through Canvas, and that text is all kinds of colors by the time they get done with it.
The difference there is, if I did a walkthrough and the teacher was just saying, oh, we're going to talk about haiku poems and here's what it is, and the student doesn't interact at all with the poetry in any way, that's a basic level of their engagement. They're just receiving knowledge. It's pretty passive. Versus if I can take that student and use the technology to apply it at the next level or the level above that, and they're actually analyzing the poem and figuring out why it's a haiku versus something else, Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that goes back to my original question was, have we moved receiving knowledge and applying into the analyzing, evaluating, and creating stage?
Right.
Which actually we have.
And that's,
Yeah.
data here is
That's
saying
what I was told,
technology
no,
has
so
helped
that's
us
where I was
to do that.
confused.
And in listening, I think that receiving and applying is still happening, it just looks different. When without the technology, when we did the walkthrough, and that's something we can talk through as an admin team, when we did it, it was so blatant and obvious because the kids were just sitting there getting and they weren't interacting. Now, when we walk through, maybe they are getting more, but man, it looks like they're getting it to the next level because they're actually in there doing it and
Happening
active with
simultaneously.
it, which we're probably, and maybe that's why we're scoring it higher than we used to, because the technology gives them that next
But
step.
see, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah,
We are blending the receiving knowledge and applying into, so you're putting 2, 3 of them together. You're working on all 3 steps possibly, or even all 4,
Right,
meshed into one.
right.
So we're not, because
No, I
if you look
don't-
at this, people could definitely interpret, well, we are not providing as much knowledge to the children.
Right.
Therefore, we got to be a little bit more specific on how we break these down.
Right.
And applying application has been a feature that I think everybody sees as we move from one generation to the other, whether it be a common sense, whether it be a work ethic, whatever it is, but application is obviously very, very important. So we want to make sure that we're not losing sight of that, but that we're integrating them some other way.
Right, right.
And that's,
And, right, I understood your concern, and then as you talk, I think as the walkthrough, it just looks different to us with the technology, because they could instantly get it and then do something with it. Before, it was just get and receive, and you didn't see as much as the others, so.
so for the sake of this conversation, receiving knowledge is solely, here it is.
Yeah.
That's it, put it in your memory,
Like they're
bank, do
reading
what you want with it.
something.
Right.
because
Well,
nothing
it is
else is going to
also-
be asked.
Right.
It's also about the level of questioning, or like Shannon said earlier, the task. Like if what color is this? Is a knowledge question, right? But how can this color be? How can or what will we do with this? All of those questioning levels get a kid thinking more. The level of thinking is higher. The level of engagement is higher. The process a child has to go through to answer the question is harder, is more in depth, takes more from the kid, and raises that engagement and that level of thinking. Yeah.
Thanks for sticking with me on that.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, that makes
Well, and the higher assumes the lower, like it's just.
Yeah,
Right.
you do.
Yeah, like you
can't
can't
that.
do.
If they're doing
Unless
this,
you-
Good
they've already,
call.
it's
Thank you,
assuming they're
Anita.
receiving knowledge, they're just more actively engaged in the knowledge, which
Right.
is supposed to increase retention and transfer to other skills.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Then-
That's
So
what
that,
I-
when we do
Right.
walkthroughs, you're looking at what's the highest level of blooms that you observe. Because this other stuff you're probably seeing, but what are they doing with the knowledge? And that's what's most important.
Well, and that's a good point, though, what Josh says, because we don't want it to just be create, and then it's just, it's all just experimental.
No.
There still needs to be that rigor and that content, and then do something with it. So, yeah, but like you said, I think when we get to that next level, whatever they're doing still needs to be aligned with standards. We're just assuming that's taking place for them to be able to do that. Yeah, that was a good explanation.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Next item on the agenda is summer school fees.
Well, we've discussed this before, so I brought you, I know Dr. Adams, you had asked for kind of breakdown what it would look like if we just did a minimal pay.
Right.
And well, I wanted to explain why I didn't include anything beyond this, because when we got to option 3, we've reached the break-even point to cover the average costs. And I don't feel like there's a need to make a profit on summer school, if that makes sense. And, we talked last time about, is there even a need to cover all of the costs, since this could be considered an at-risk intervention. One piece, I was thinking, last week, I was kind of looking at all of the data again. There's a piece that I haven't included that goes in this pool of money that includes the money that we collect from summer school, and that is, we also we do credit recovery during the school year, and we'll collect from in-district students if it's in addition to their school day, but we also collect from out-of-district students that are doing credit recovery. And that, just a little piece to note, this year, we've collected $1,200 just this school year on out-of-district credit recovery. So when you add that into the revenue, you know, you have to consider that as additional revenue that goes in. So make that another consideration. So really, we 1,200. Just what? Yeah, 1,200 is during the school year. Out-of-district students pay $200 per course.
So that 1,200 is net profit.
Right. Well, it goes in the bank of, in the pool with the rest of the money that we collect for summer school, which is also credit recovery.
So the 1,200 came from $200 per half credit.
Right.
So six.
We've had six classes retrieved from out-of-district students during the school year.
And we did nothing to assist with that.
We do a little bit, not a lot. It's virtual class. We're a virtual course monitor is the model that it's called. We proctor the exams, we grade any essays, we monitor the grading of any other assignments to make sure it's done, like that they're completing assignments. But
So we might not have a huge cost.
No.
But it's not 1,200.
No, well, it's absorbed by our staff, right? It goes back in this pool, which is why I didn't include any options that went beyond money that paying the $25 per quarter credit. Because as I shared the last time, even on the $25 per quarter credit, which is what we ended up charging last summer, thanks to the grant from the Dane G. Hansen Foundation that covered the other 75% of those students, we have 24 students whose transcripts are not complete because they've completed classes but have outstanding fees. And I think Sarah had asked how many times have we attempted to collect that. I've made a personal contact plus sent 4 letters since the end of summer school.
Do you average about 6 out of district or around there?
About, we'll get some from TMP, some from Victoria. Occasionally this summer, for summer school, we had quite a few from Waukene.
Are all those fees free and reduced lunch?
For out of district, there's not. I would say that's a pretty fair estimate. Kind of hit that option.
No,
for the ones in, right, you see the data, there were 63% last summer that would have qualified to have fees waived. That would be 63% qualified for free lunch.
But I mean, of the 24 outstanding.
Oh, yes, all.
All are free and
Yes,
reduced?
all are free. Thank you. That's a good question. Which tells me the $25 per course, and many of them had 2 courses, but that was still a significant hardship.
Are they applied to the foundation?
We have not, because that requires a teacher letter, so that would be either the counselors at Hayes High or myself, and we could do that. But
You said it requires a teacher letter?
it requires a letter from a staff member explaining the circumstances. Is that not? That was my understanding.
I'm not saying not.
Okay.
I have heard
Okay.
that on the foundation.
Okay, that's what we've typically done in the past.
On the $10 fee, do you think that these students that are on the free lunch, we don't know?
I don't know. I don't know. Good question.
On the $10 fee.
That's even too much.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I think
Right.
I still really should pay something to do it, and I'm just wondering where that rate number is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Because I thought the 25 might be it, and obviously it's not. Because that's why I wrote the grant that way. I was thinking, 25 would.
So which of these are you, Greg?
Because of that's, my recommendation is to go back to the waiving the fee for the free, only because of we have 24 kids sitting with transcripts incomplete. And I had a call last week from a student who moved, and she said, oh, wait a minute, I finished these classes. Why are they not on my transcript? They didn't transfer with her because she hadn't paid for the 2 courses. So now her transcript in Kansas City is messed up because she couldn't pay the $25 per course here.
So really, until they pay, they can't move on at all?
Well, they don't go on their transcript, right? So it's going to become, if we have seniors this year that have classes that we know they finished, but they're not on their transcript, until they graduate, we need to take care of the fees in some way. And this is just gonna snowball if we continue, if we have the same issue, I don't know. It concerns me, it's such a small amount, and it really is an at-risk intervention.
And at the end of the day, looking at option one compared to our cost, we're talking about
Exactly,
$1,300.
exactly. Which that was my thinking was, we make that amount up in that out-of-district credit recovery during the school year. But for 24 students' transcripts, that really is a very small amount.
Well, this will be on the agenda.
Right.
If you have other questions or anything, let me know, or Anita, and
Yeah.
we'll continue that on the 21st. And then that's when we'll be asking for a vote.
But just for point of clarification, it's not like that, this is retroactive, it doesn't resolve the problem.
No, it doesn't resolve, right. We'll still have to do something about last summer's issue, whether it's applied to the foundation or, that's the only option I know of right now. Or attempt to collect, and I suspect some of that will come in, like the seniors. They will try to pay before graduation, but.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, I would think the foundation would exist to assist for anybody that has something drastic go on, something that prevented them from being in school, getting their work done, missing a lot of time, etc. So when we talk about these 24 credits, well, that is a concern.
Right.
Why? Why are there 24?
And that would be, we'd have to go back to each individual one and ask, because they all have different stories, and they're never as simple as they appear. That's always my spiel at graduation is, you think you know from the outside looking in, and we even think we know people's stories for why they didn't finish or why they failed a class just from what they tell us, but it's always more complex than that. So we have a lot of high school age kids walking around with adult problems or adult burdens that for many of them prevent them from completing a class, or they'll complete as many as they can, they'll pass as many as they can, and this class just happens to be the one that they cut loose because they can't complete all the homework for math. So I know I can do that in summer school. I'm going to let that one go so I can pass everything else.
But especially when we're talking about such there's two sides of it. It could either be such a low cost for those 24 credits that it would definitely make sense for application to the foundation.
Right.
But all I'm hearing is it's such a low cost that the school district should naturally absorb that cost. And then based on the situation,
because we're talking about at-risk students, and it's an at-risk intervention. And this is still a much cheaper, I think we talked about that last time too, a much cheaper way to offer summer school than we had offered summer school in the past, which was at Hayes High with a different teacher for every subject area. Having the online model allows us to do it at a much more cost-efficient It's probably a fourth of the cost, would be my guess at least. So.
Are the students made aware of the opportunity to apply to the foundation for assistance?
That would be a question for the Hayes High counselors. I don't know that we've talked about that a lot.
That's what I wondered. I don't know
Right.
if we talked about that process, or if we made it.
It was brought up last year when we talked about these fees as well, so. It was brought up last year when we talked about these fees.
But I don't know, if we've had them do it directly, or if there's a form or something.
Does the foundation have the, footing to take, if we continue to have fees, would they be able to cover
I can't
fees
say
to that
they could
extent?
cover everything, but
Yeah.
I know that they would definitely, I'm sure, entertain some of
Right.
what they want to cover.
Right.
Present or basically.
Well, and some of them would fall under that. I know I just filled out the application for the foster care children. Some of these would probably fall under that foster care, because those would be students who automatically qualify for free lunch and didn't have fees waived last summer. So, and sometimes I know the circumstances, sometimes I don't find out the circumstances of the students in summer school.
why such a big difference? Why 0 for free and 50 for reduced? Why such a big jump in cost there?
I don't know. That's just, we could do something else.
Just because, reduced families would still
Right.
show the at-risk.
Right.
And they would still have the financial burden.
Right.
Just, it's a 0 to 50.
It could be
challenge.
something else if you want something else.
No, I was just curious if there was.
It's been
reasoning
100.
behind it.
It's been, in the past, it's been, before last summer, it was waived for free and reduced, and full pay was $100. So I was just trying to acknowledge that reduced might have more of a burden and would appreciate at least a discount.
Well, most
Be-
of your reduced able to pay last year. You said all of those outstanding are free?
We have,
or they're
okay,
free
we
reduced?
typically, you see, like, we have very few reduced, like it's about 10%.
Okay.
It's either typically free or, which, as a percent of the whole, the students in summer school who qualify for free lunch is a greater percentage than the district percent, which sits at about 39%. And you see that 63% of summer school students qualify for free lunch. So that, I mean, that just tells us that that is a more at-risk population. Does that help? Okay. Good deal.
You want to entertain anything other than the options here? I mean, you want
Yeah.
to put together anything else, or?
Okay.
I'm fine with these options, but if someone else feels differently, we can always look at that too.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Next item on the agenda is the beginning wages for entry-level positions. Being on what she's doing.
Okay, what we had started talking about, gosh, the last year even, and throughout the year, with the concerns we have hiring entry-level personnel I'm talking secretaries, paras, cooks, crossing guards, lunchroom supervisors, after-school care, technology lab assistants, all of those types of positions. Our starting wage is at $8.45, and almost every place in Hayes starts higher than that. And we have a real difficult time keeping, if we do find somebody, keeping somebody at that wage if they can make more at a different location. So what we want to consider is increasing the starting wage to $9 an hour for all of those positions, and then our tech lab assistants, because of the expertise they have, and start that position at $10 an hour. And what you see also there is the impact this would have, and these numbers are for the entire year. General fund, $13,240, that's what we had, or Tracy had figured this year, what it would cost. And then at-risk funds, the $8,600, which is part of the general fund. So that's about $21,000 there. Special ed, Mark's special ed budget for para-educators, that would cost about $23,260. Again, that would come out of the special ed budget. Jessica's budget for food service, increasing those wages would cost $4,700. Donna's program, Head Start, Early Childhood Connections, all the federal grants and everything she does, not our funds either. That would cost her program about $13,450. And then after school care are all fee-based programs, and checking with every one of these groups and organizations that they all agreed the benefit would outweigh this cost. I mean, and they all have that in their budget and could deal with that. So that's the dilemma we have. We started this process 2 years ago with custodial and maintenance. We had a heck of a time getting and keeping quality custodial and maintenance personnel. And over the last 2 years, and actually next year, it's already been determined they'll cut back on the number of days they have off, and they will get another raise. I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's in that agreement that we did. This falls in line with that. Entry levels, we're not talking about increasing wages on anything right now until next year, looking at some different scenarios. This is strictly entry-level positions from $8.45 to $9, and then our tech lab assistants at $10 an hour. So, questions, comments, and Mark, you may, he deals with it daily, so.
Just to clarify, this is not a raise for all classified staff. This is to raise the entry level to 9. So anybody currently making less than 9 would be raised to 9. And we have people from 8.45 and various steps all the way up. So not everybody would get the same amount of raise, percentage raise, or anything else. Again, it's not a raise, it's lowering that entry level. The second thing is, in talking with Tracy and payroll, if you were to approve this at the next board meeting on March 21st, the beginning date, the next timesheet cycle would start March 28th. So our expectation would be to start that new wage on March 28th for everybody, to get us into the new hiring cycle and begin that for everybody. The third thing I want to point out is, it is our hopes that this is the first raise in hopefully a series of raises in the future to get that entry level up even higher to where it should be. Now, we're not recommending anything beyond $9 an hour because bluntly, we need to wait and see where we are financially. We need to see where we are. Going over 9 starts bumping some other situations. We've got tiered salaries, particularly in food service, where there's different support levels, different expectation levels. So we'll have to adjust some of those things with anything beyond 9. But at this point, it gets us a starting point. It gets us to a little more respectable starting wage. And again, it is not a salary increase for all classified. It's just giving them
What? Okay, yeah, bus driver is $10.14. We want to raise lab techs to $10. And we're showing responsibility level of 1 for both jobs. How are we doing with our bus drivers? Are we able to, I mean, are we competitive? I mean, I would have a hard time seeing that the responsibility level of driving a bus with a bunch of students on it versus a lab tech are exactly the same. I'm not saying that that's not how they're categorized. I don't know whether that's us categorizing them or that's a national categorization.
We had, for the lab assistant pieces, Josh, a lot of that was expertise and knowing. We have a few that, well, are they still certified teachers? We have a certified teacher in the lab.
I think we have 1 or 2 that has some certification, but they supervise classes. We're able to build some collaboration time for our teachers and spend time by having the students have computer class. And so we are trying to align with Marie South a more consistent curriculum. So we are asking them to not necessarily deliver the content because the computer does that, but we felt like they're at a different level of responsibility than maybe just some technology or low, and I'm not sure what the steps are. Tracy would probably know what a 1 or 2. To me, it's like,
yeah, she'll be here.
I'm not sure exactly how to differentiate between the 1s and the 2s and the 1s across the board. But I know that was part of our discussion of feeling like they have some added responsibility, and we should look at the $10 an hour for the tech assistants.
And right now, there's 4 individuals.
Right. And then we do the ones at the elementary school.
Well, and I'm not saying there's an issue with that. I'm just, are we good on bus drivers?
Yeah, I can't answer.
And that would be my question.
The last time we checked, Josh, and that may come up next year, you know, when we look at everything. But I haven't had, other than just everyone expects a raise and be nice to do that, but that we are out of line with surrounding areas. I don't think we are. But we can look at that.
Didn't we adjust that a couple of years ago?
I thought so.
But we'll look at all of these as what we're doing across the board, really, to make sure that we are in line. Like I said, it's harder and harder to hire, and no disrespect to bus drivers at all, but, you know, 8:45 and under for coming in, it's tough when you can get a job about anywhere else.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we need to be.
yeah,
If
but
you
we
want
could
the
look at,
things that
we
we
will
want.
look at all these, Josh, and see where
We have to be competitive.
we do.
That's also
And
why
every-
we're trying to free up money in the general fund to get teachers caught up with where they need to be.
Yeah.
So no, there's no issue,
Yeah.
that one just kind of
Well, no, I
stands
think
out.
that, well, when you look at the responsibility level, yeah, I mean, they probably have more responsibility than any of us, first thing in the morning and after school. I mean, it's huge. So we will have this discussion. Any other things you want to see? This will be on the agenda, and we'll continue that. And like I said, Tracy will be here to answer more questions, and she's at a funeral service out of state. And texted or emailed today that her flight got canceled, so I think she's supposed to be back about 3 o'clock this morning.
And it has, remind me, when we talked about this, it's in the budget at $9. I mean, it's not like it would, she's budgeted for it this year because we've been talking about it a while, so it's in the budget, if that helps at all.
Yeah, and the number she has provided of what it would cost for that, the whole year,
Right.
what we're talking about for the next couple of months is very minimal
Sure.
if we started later,
So
but
it's
it is-
approved, go into effect immediately.
for, yeah, the rest of the year. We wouldn't do it retroactive, you know, to where we would go back.
Do we know how many staff that would impact? I guess I was curious, how many people would be doing the
I don't.
Well,
without-
special ed pairs alone would be about 50, and then,
You could find out, yeah.
That would be an
Let's,
we actually had all that a year ago when we were putting this together. We don't have to do that.
Any other questions on the wages?
we will have that on the agenda and have some of that other information. And like I said, Tracy will be here then to explain some of that.
Next item on the agenda is construction management at risk. We have a gentleman here with John Paul to go over some information with us and kind of explain what the construction management at risk is and how it pertains to the bond and some of that. So with that, I will turn it over to him.
I have a PowerPoint. Can I plug in that? And don't worry, it's only 7 slides. I know.
Oh, okay. Do you trust me to run it, or do you want the keyboard?
What's that?
Do you trust me to move the slide,
Sure,
or do you
yeah.
want it? Okay, so you can do that.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you for the opportunity to come visit with you guys tonight. My name is John Paul. I lead the Kansas office for Bolts Construction. I'm in town actually working with Glassman quite a bit on the Hayes Med projects, and I want to come talk to you about construction management at risk as one of the 3 delivery methods that are available to you.
Ready to do that one, the PowerPoint?
Unless you want to watch my daughter's PowerPoint from the state of Arkansas. So as you're considering a bond issue for some construction work for some facilities, and you really legally have only 3 options available to you for how to buy the construction work. So we'll just talk through each one of these and show you some differences between them. And this is meant only as an educational session. I have preferences, and the next guy has preferences, but we'll wash this presentation of preferences and just explain some of the differences between delivery methods for you. And I'm a preacher's kid, so I could go on and on and on. So stop me and wave to me if you have a question. I'd rather this be interactive than a presentation, really. Okay, so let's dig in here. So construction delivery 101. So just to set the stage, I guess, no matter how you buy your construction, there's going to be cost components in the contract. No matter whether it's a general contractor or construction manager, you have the slice at the top called the fee. That's our home office profit and overhead, how we pay the electric bills back home. You got general conditions costs, which is the job site trailer, the construction superintendent, the dumpsters, the things that you need to manage the job site that don't stay with the project. We take those guys back when we're done building the building.
And then, of course, the largest piece of the construction cost is the cost of the work, the sticks and bricks, the subcontractors, the materials, the labor, the equipment. And this is important because no matter what delivery method we talk about, these costs are all there. They're just packaged up differently and they're requested differently. But you're going to have the fee, the general conditions, and the cost of the work. And so the first kind of the method that everybody's familiar with is the hard bid, the traditional design, bid, build method. And in this method, the architect works on the design, and then the drawings are put out on the street for general contractors to bid on. Contractors pick based on low price, and the contractor goes and builds. So in this scenario, so the little map here shows the contractual relationship between all the parties. So the owner at the top has basically two contracts. You're contracted with your design team, and your architect then has contracts underneath him or her, I'm sorry, for consultants and engineers. The general contractor then also holds all the contracts for the trades. Maybe it's purchase orders for the material, maybe it's subcontracts, maybe it's equipment, like I said. But you, as an owner, are only responsible. You have the two relationships, the architect and the general contractor. Again, just some high points. The selection is based primarily on low price. You open up the bids on bid day and see who's got the best dollar, and that's the one you go to contract with. So the general contractor is at risk, we like to say, because the subcontracts flow up through the general contractor. You, the owner, are protected from the risk of the subcontracts because of that layer called the general contractor. The fee piece of that previous slide is in that general construction contract. Really, you get the low bid on bid day, but you don't, as an owner, have the ability to see underneath that bid and see what's in that bid. It's not very transparent. At the end of the day, if the general contractor puts a contingency amount in his bid, for example, because of some unforeseen conditions he's scared of, well, if those unforeseen conditions don't actually turn out bad, he keeps all that contingency because it's a lump sum contract. So what you agree to in the contract is what you pay at the end of the day. Now, the owner also is protected from the contract failure by a performance, 100% performance bond, called a bid bond, performance and payment bond sometimes. So you're protected from the contractor going belly side up halfway through the project with this payment bond. So there's some protection there. So questions about the hard bid method before we move on? So the next option then is construction manager. So there's two options that we're going to talk about. They're both construction manager. We'll start with one called construction manager, where they act as an agent of the owner, and the other one is construction manager at risk, and there are some differences. So you'll notice here on the little org chart, the line moves for responsibility for the subcontracts. So now you, as the owner, have the same contractual relationship with your design team. You have a contractual relationship with your construction manager, but that subcontracts are all routed out through you as the owner. So you could hold, depending on how big the project is, there could be 40 or 50 subcontracts because those are the people, the trades, the subcontractors who need to actually perform the work. And under this scenario, they all route up through you. So you have 40 or 50 contracts with various trade contractors. And when time comes every month to pay, you guys write 40, 50 checks to every subcontractor to pay them as well. So that's the significant difference here. So first thing to talk about is the agent is picked based now on qualifications and resume, and not just on low dollars. So you'll put out a request, and you'll see what the resumes of the construction managers look like and whether they've built a school before. Kind of important to you as an owner, and you get to pick based on qualifications. And then the fee, that slip at the top, is just negotiated with the CM. A distinct advantage of this delivery method over the previous one we just talked about was now you have this construction manager who has some building expertise. Now he's pushed earlier in the process, so he's working side by side with the design team. So now we have a builder who can talk schedule, who can talk constructability, who can help with site logistics, and it's valuable to get the third leg of the three-legged stool between the owner and the design team and the builder, because now we can all kind of work out the bugs before it comes to real life on the construction side. But like we said, the owner holds all the subcontracts and therefore the associated risk. It's kind of an open book system as opposed to the hard bid system because now you guys have access to all the subcontract numbers. And there is no general contractor who is shielding you from those numbers, so to speak. And so you know what the electrical contract is worth and what the concrete contract is worth. So it's transparent at that point. But however, there is no guaranteed maximum price, which we'll talk about on the next piece. And then another important note is that the CM agent is not permitted to self-perform any work because the way this is delivered under law, the CM agent is a professional service. And so the CM agent's not allowed to perform any of the work. So if you hire an agent who has some concrete crews, well, they just can't work on this job. That's not allowed under statutes. And then you are also, just like you were protected in the previous situation by a bond, you have a bond on each one of those subcontracts. So should subcontractor X, again, have financial problems, for some reason go bankrupt, can't finish the job, you have a bond to fall back on to protect yourself in the case of that failure. Does that make sense? You guys see some differences here, evolving in the delivery methods? So let's go to this last one then. So this next one is very similar to what we just talked about, the CM agent. This is now, though, the CM at risk, or CMAR. And so between the hard bid, CM agent, CM at risk, these are the three options that you have per statute. Design build is not available to you as a public school district. That's not legal in the state of Kansas. So you have these three options to choose from. So just like before, the CMAR now is picked based on qualifications. And I think you guys have some materials I saw in your packet that kind of describe how the statutes are very specific on the steps you need to go through and the timing for all that. So you have a criteria process you go through. And then, again, fees negotiated. You have a sheet that we actually, the CM at risk will have to fill out fees and submit that to the state. And the state has a department that actually grades however many responses you get and provides you the feedback of how the 3 to 5 different CMs actually compare on dollars. So again, just like the agency, the CM at risk now is pulled forward in the process. So you got this builder working along with the design team to help through the pricing, the estimates, make sure the scope and the budget align so you don't have a surprise on bid day and you got to go redesign stuff. However, the significant difference, you already saw it, but the significant difference here now is that the subcontracts route through the construction manager's risk. So now the school district is not at risk if the concrete contractor goes under. That's the risk of the CM. Now, the other risk that they hold is the risk of the guaranteed maximum price. The CM will under contract, commit to the owner how much this job is going to cost. Now, the beauty of the system is this is the guaranteed maximum price. It's not a guaranteed minimum price. It's a maximum price. It's a ceiling. And so if that ceiling is $100 to build your new school and the CM actually can't do it and it costs them $110, well, the CM eats the $10 because he's committed to you that ceiling price. However, if the stars align and they figure out a better, quicker, faster way to do it and still meet the plans and specs and it costs $90, well then you benefit from all $10 of those savings. They go right back to you. And so you benefit from all cost savings, 100% cost savings, but you're protected from any cost up above that ceiling, that guaranteed maximum price. Does that make sense? So it's a transparent system compared to the lump sum, the hard bid system, because now you have access, you're required by contract, you have access to all the values of the subcontractors, of the materials, of the labor, of the general conditions, all that stuff. You have access to that, and your CM is required, is obligated on a monthly basis to come to you in the form of a board meeting or however you want to do it and report those costs to you. How we doing? How we tracking along on the budget and the schedule and all that? Also, a difference between this and the agency is the CM at risk can bid some of the packages. Now, if I'm the CM at risk, I can't just say, I want to do the steel erection and concrete. I have to earn it. So under this scenario, the CM at risk can notify the marketplace that he wants to bid the concrete package or whatever package is the carpentry package. And the way, for example, the way we handle this is we'll submit a bid 24 hours in advance of the marketplace. So you know that we're not collecting bids and we see that this bid is $10 and we're going to bid it at $9 to do it. We submit that 24 hours ahead of time to you, the owner, or to the architect, or both. And that way you know that it's a fair market price. And again, if the number's not right, you won't get the work. So the CM has to earn that work on bid day. And then again, you're protected from failure. Now here, you just have one performance bond because you just have one contract with the CM instead of all the subcontractors. Does that make sense? You see the difference between this CM delivery and the CM agency delivery? All right, so those are the three methods. Does anybody have any questions about the intricacies of the differences?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So legally, can a CMA not be granted more power over the project? I mean, because you've given the least amount of authority that a construction manager and a CMA, the owner has the right, don't they, legally to grant more power as long as they stay out of the work and only perform management duties?
The CMA will still have a superintendent on site, for example, to supervise the work. They'll still have that general conditions piece, so they'll have the trailer and all that. So they're still supervising the work and ensuring that quality's there, that the manpower shows up when they say it's supposed to, all that. The limitation is when the money doesn't flow through the CM, that limits the stick that the CM has to encourage the subcontractor to do the work. And so the CM agent is really just a representative of the owner, and so we can advise our owner what we think ought to happen, and then it's your responsibility to go exercise that with the subcontractor. And that's the limit of the CM agency power.
Okay.
And the contract
At risk, though, you guys would do all
when it's at risk, now we have, the money flows through us, we have subcontract agreements that give us some more authority to get the work done.
Okay. And then CMAR fees versus a general contractor profit.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty standard in the construction industry for it to be around 10%.
Those days are long. No, for something like, for 80-ish to 90-ish $1 million bond, those fees are going to be 2% or under. Now, and that's for that CM or the general contractor level. Underneath that, at the subcontractor level, the fees will be up a little bit, but at the CM level and the general contractor level, I would argue there is no difference between fee structure at that point. The advantage you have under the CM method is you see that fee because we have to compete based on that fee. That's one of the blocks we have to fill out on that form that we submit to the state. Under the lump sum bid, you see one number. It's the number for the job. And so you never know what that fee is. It's just a lump sum number. CM at risk has to show you the fee, has to show you the general conditions, has to show you the cost of his insurance packages and all that. And that's filled out very clearly on that form. So the competition is no less fierce in the CM world because it's a competition based on dollars, based on it's a fee competition.
And our advantage is that if it comes in under, there could be a reduction in savings.
Absolutely.
Now, what if the GC price was 5% lower than what the CMAR price was? I mean, therefore, we would still be saving automatically.
Well, that's a theoretical comparison because you have to choose what method you pursue and then pursue that method. You can't compare different delivery methods on the same project.
But isn't that kind of where it sticks us? Is that you have to go one or the other? Because there's a GC bid could be a lot less than what a CMAR bid is also.
I would propose not, because if you remember that first barrel slide, you still have the three components, and it's no matter if it's the GC or the CM, you have the fees, you have the general conditions, and you have the cost of the work. And so the difference is that in the CM world, well, so in the lump sum world, you see one number and you don't see a breakout of that number. And the only comparison you see is between the different GCs who actually bid the work. So maybe you have 5 guys show up on bid day, and that's the comparison that you can make. In the CM world, you actually see the transparency of what the subcontract values are and all that. But the difference is that you see the fees competed against on bid day, and you see the general conditions competed against each other on bid day. And so it's open and transparent. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I want you to convince me of why we should use the CMAR. But whether it's transparent or not, At the end of the day, the owner cares about two things. You know, time frame and quality of work for a price that was agreed upon, you know. So if a CMAR price, which, and I'm not saying that the information that I've reviewed is accurate, but nationally speaking, CMAR projects are slightly higher than GC government projects. Now, you've got the option where if you do a great job of management, and we come in and your management comes in under, there's a savings that can go back to the district, which can definitely negate that difference in there.
Well, I would add another thought. The next slide might help with this. Another reason that's a little bit muddled of an argument for me to get into is because there's the benefit of bringing the CM on early, and so that the CM is now working directly with the architect and the owner in all the design decisions and the schedule decisions and the phasing decisions and all that. Well, if we look at it in terms of if time is on this axis and the potential for savings for dollars are on the y-axis, we have a great potential to save money early in the design, because now we've caught issues and we've talked about issues while there's still lines on paper or lines here virtually. It's a virtual problem instead of a real problem. If we go through and wait until the construction documents are done and they're out on the street for bid, and now we hit the problem, we have a very little ability to save money, to fix that problem in a fiscally conservative way. That's going to cost a bunch of money for redesign. It's going to cost a bunch of money for in time to go backwards and redesign to fix the problem, versus if we could have caught it early. And so the reason I say that is because who knows what the savings could have been in the hard bid method if he would have been available to go through some of this stuff early. But the contractor wasn't there, and so it was just kind of the architect and the owner working in a black box on the design without the input of the contractor to help through some of the constructability issues and dollars issues. And so one of the things that a CM should pride themselves on is getting all the space, all the scope that they possibly can get for the dollars that you set as an owner. And it's looking at different systems, it's looking at different schedules, it's looking at different materials to get as much scope as possible inside that bond issue, and help be a partner and help the owner and architect make those decisions early on.
Okay. And then you hear complaints about the lack of accountability from the architecture and engineering design phase. Let's say something is poorly designed, a flaw in the system that's being presented, and you do catch it later on down the line. There's never any, hey, we're going to redesign this for free because we messed up to begin with. Is there a change between CMAR and general and GC situations, or is it still the same, it works the same way? You do have to pay for all the redesign, all the changes, everything else.
Well, I can't speak to the dollars that an architect would charge for redesign, but from a CM perspective, what a CM should recommend to you is that they carry a little bit of a contingency within that guaranteed maximum price. It's an amount that is transparent and known to you from day one. So if the guaranteed maximum price again is $100, maybe you ought to keep $2 of that earmarked as a contingency. So what if we have a rainstorm come through and wash out our gravel parking lot? Well, instead of coming to you for a change order for new gravel, we have a contingency we can pull from, and so that guaranteed maximum price is always protected. So we don't have to come back and start tagging you for nickel and dime change orders every time something happens on the job site or something's discovered, an error or omission is discovered. There's a contingency amount that's available to you. In the lump sum world, and what you see is what you get. And if it wasn't on the drawings on bid day, then it's going to be a change order when it changes in construction. That's the only recourse that a general contractor would have under the lump sum scenario.
Yeah, because their contingency typically only applies to them not fully understanding something, needing more time, materials, etc. to go into it.
On the lump sum, if there is a contingency in that bid, you'll never know it because you don't have access to it as an owner. And so that's one of the decisions that the contractor will have to make on bid day. Should I take a risk of putting a contingency in there and then not being a low price? Or should I just bid it just as narrow as I can to be the low price, knowing that I'm going to have to come back for change orders every time something's caught during construction? which is going to be more prevalent on a remodel project. A lot of unknowns on a
Then the
remodel project.
CMAR scenario, with that built-in contingency, if there are no changes, does that come back to us?
100%, by statute, it has to be. Yep.
And with the fees, as far as like the CAMR and the other stuff, doing some research on this the way I understand. So for sake of argument, our bond is 94 million. Your fee is included in that. It's not above and beyond.
Absolutely.
So if our bond is set at 94 million, we're not going to pay 2 or 3% higher than yours is included as part of that.
Correct.
And then you come back after you've looked through all this and say, okay, this is your guaranteed max price you guys are going to pay.
Your bond amount is going to include the design and architect engineer fees, the construction manager barrel that we talked about, the fees, the general conditions, the cost of the work, and any what we call soft cost. It might be furniture, fixtures, equipment that you need to fit out your new facilities or to relocate or whatever. All that stuff has to fit within that bond amount. And it's clearly noted up front what that bond amount is. And we've done enough schoolwork to know there's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That's the dollars, that's the dollars. There's no more money. So we have to make it work within that bond amount and figure out a way to get you, the end user, the scope, the size, the square footage, the classrooms that you need. It's our responsibility. And it's actually spelled out in the contract forms too. Our duty to help.
You said prior school work. Can you give some examples, or how many other projects have you been involved in?
Well, I don't want to let this be a sales pitch for Naples, but K-12 is one of our primary markets for construction, so we're probably over 50% of our backlog is K-12 construction. So, everything from new schools to remodels.
One of them I had actually called on, I believe, was McPherson. I believe is that one of you guys did?
I don't think we have.
I can't remember. What was the one? Hutch, I'm sorry. I didn't think McPherson. I was looking at Hutch was the other one. And if I'm not mistaken, that was one where you guys actually got in after they came in over bid and talking to their superintendent and their other one down there.
So that one came online in 2008, and it was shortly after the state statutes were adopted to allow CM at risk. So they decided to, it was a very complicated addition remodel project in an active high school campus. Their budget was, I hope I get this right, their budget was 30 million, give or take. They went out on the street for hard bids, that first method we talked about, and the best bid they got was 37 million. So they got a problem. So their architect has worked for 12 months designing, they put it on the street, they got a problem, now what do? Well, they decided to back up and reconsider their delivery method, and they decided to go CM at risk for the second time, since they went hard bid the first time. And so we participated the second time in the CM at risk competition. We did the competitive fees, we interviewed, based our qualifications, all that stuff. We were awarded the work. And so now we roll up our sleeves and work alongside the architect to say, okay, what went wrong the first time? Is there a way that we can change out some systems, we can change out some materials, we can rephase and look at the schedule? And so we spent about 6 months basically working side by side, joined at the hip with the architect. We put it back out on the market to collect subcontractor numbers, and we brought the thing in for 29.5 or something like that, just under their amount. So that was a good case study of as close as possible one delivery method versus the other. And the cool thing was, in all that cost savings, we never sacrificed any program space. We didn't say, well, just cut 3 kindergarten or the high school, but just cut a classroom out. We couldn't do that because they have space they need to educate their students. So it really was a picture, I guess, of a hard bid method versus the collaborative method and the savings that were realized. Good question. Right on. Yeah, here's a hokey pitch. So we really think that the best projects are the ones that are teamwork and collaboration at every step. I did print off hard copies of the PowerPoint if you're interested. I'll leave them here.
John, I guess the next question would be, what would our, if we discuss this and decide to go this route or something else, what would our next step as a board be?
Good question, and I think I noticed in your packet you may have had some additional information. Yeah, right there. That's awesome. So here is that form I was telling you about that we, this is what the CMAR would have to fill out. And it asks for fees and general conditions and all that. There ought to be some more forms down. Well, Well, so there's some steps you got to go through just to work. So first of all, you have to, if you decide this is the way you want to go, you have to notify your constituents that you're going to discuss this at a board meeting and give them advance notice to come and comment if they would like. And then at a board meeting, you would take action to say, we're going to go see him at risk. And from there, sorry.
Okay, Sarah, did you actually publish that we were going to go through this, so it's already been published?
Or,
That we were going to be discussing this CM at risk?
yes, it was.
Okay. She's ahead of the game.
I thought we had done that just to be on the safe side.
Fantastic. So then you would decide that's the way you want to go. Then your next step then would be to publish what we call an RFQ, a request for qualifications. And this is published in, again, the statutes tell us it has to be a newspaper within circulation within the Hayes area. There's also AGC of Kansas and Topeka has a spot on their site where they accept advertisements. But anyway, so it's broadcast to everybody who wants to participate, and you might get 12, 15 responses from contractors who want to be considered, and what they will give you is their qualifications. What kind of school work have you done? Tell me about yourself financially. Are you a safe, secure financial company? Tell me about your legal situation right now. You can ask a whole bunch of questions. Based on the responses you get, you'll narrow that list down to between 3 and 5 CM firms. You'll tell the others, regrettably, we're not going to choose you. You take 3 or 5 to go to the next phase, which is now the RFP. Now it's a request for proposal. Now you're really going to get under their hood. You're going to ask for resumes of personnel. You're going to ask for superintendent that's going to be on site, project manager that's going to run the job. You're going to ask for these fees that they submit to the state. And then each of these 3 to 5 guys will then also come and interview for you. You can do it at a regular board meeting, call a special board meeting, and you get to actually see the people who are going to be managing your project. And based on the proposal, based on the cost, based on the interview, you have a matrix that you will have set up. It's a weighted matrix. Whatever's most important to you. If fees are most important, you weight that heavier. If personnel are more important, you weight that heavier. And then you fill out your matrix and your scorecard, and you decide based on objective scoring who your CM firm is going to be. And then you go to contract with that firm.
So as far as time frame, knowing that we're looking at doing this bond in June, time frame in that, do you see any issues with getting this moved through in that time frame or any of that as well?
No, I think between now and June we could have the CM selection done.
Okay.
Yep. Not much time to waste if that's the direction you want to go, because there's the statutes require so many days that the advertisement has to be published and so many days to allow the CM to respond. So it might be getting close, but the other answer to your question, you don't have to have a CM on board as of the bond. We've seen some where the CM is on board before the bond is passed, and then they're kind of working at risk because the bond may or may not pass. We've seen some situations where the bond passes, they know the money's in hand, and then they'll go pursue a CM. So that timing doesn't necessarily have to follow one or the other.
Is there a preferred?
My preference is that the CM is hired as early as possible. Some districts have seen benefit from having the professional builder on hired already. So we've sat in on town hall meetings to help answer questions from patrons. We help architects early on with cost estimates and scheduling. Just kind of brings a little bit more level of thoroughness, I guess, to the process.
So at the end of the day, this basically brings to us a financial accountability to the public.
Transparency.
Basically where everything's basically transparent, and the fact that we're guaranteed it's not going to go over this cost.
Right.
And I guess in my experience with construction, you don't see a whole lot of construction that stays under budget,
yeah.
But and really it's not going to cost us anymore. In fact, if anything, it has the potential to save us money. Where
Correct.
it is, if I understand right, if not doing this, obviously we don't have to do it.
Right. The other option is if there are cost savings realized, we will have forecasted well in advance what those savings will be. You choose. Do you want that money back in the job, or do you want to reinvest it in upgraded curtains, upgraded carpet, upgraded scope? It's your money. You can choose what to do with it. But your CM should have forecasted early enough that you see the savings coming, and you tell the CM what you want done with that money. But any savings under that GMP by statute has to go back to you, has to go back to the owner. There's no shared savings or any of that in senior risk.
And there's no benefit, like that money will not go to the CM at risk. Your fee is
Correct.
your fee.
Correct. Yes.
So
yes.
there's no, hey,
The
we
only,
don't necessarily want a lot of savings to come back because, we need a little bit of that.
the fee is the fee that is put on this form. And everything outside of the fee and the general conditions are just subcontractors and materials and invoices that the CM pays to get the work done.
And the contingency fee, that would be whatever's
Contingency
not
is just a
used.
line item in the cost of the work, and whatever's not used in that contingency is cost. Cost not incurred goes back to you.
But again, that's all included in the cost of the bond, whatever that number is that you're doing.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, sir. Yep.
Do you have any questions while you're here? Any other questions?
I guess maybe it's general of Sarah was posted here, those tentative timelines and items, those projecting if we move this way.
What?
Well, we have the whole
Just the
CMAR material in here. Okay, I was just curious.
It's just all in the agenda.
I'm sorry.
It's attached within the agenda. And then
Yeah.
there's that extra underneath the agenda on the website.
So also I've converted that to PDFs, so if you want to save the PDFs, maybe you can take those also.
Thank you very much
All
for your
right,
time.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if it'd be helpful, I can be here for the next board meeting in case any last questions come up before you take action as well. Just plan on being here in the audience.
Okay.
Where's your home base? Did you say Arkansas?
No, Kansas City.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said something about Arkansas.
My daughter's presentation for school.
Gotcha.
They had to pick a state.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was with you, Josh, I thought he had a long way to drive.
Yeah, and his accent didn't match Arkansas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda is the bond issue.
We need to talk about some of those things in a little bit of detail here. If you look at the timeline, and I think it was attached there, that we are scheduled on the 21st, and that is pretty much the last opportunity, pass the resolution to still meet guidelines and do all those things for notifications to have a June 7th election. So when we come back, or the actual board meeting on the 21st, I will have the resolution drafted. Dustin Avey, I talked to him before the meeting tonight again. I'll call him in the morning, give him some more input, but we need to adopt that resolution then on what type of bond question or questions, and date, and what type, whether it's mail or walk-in. Those are some of the big pending items. We have, I don't know, a really accurate update. I don't think we got one today, Sarah, and I mean, I know they're working on it. I don't want to pressure the county. They're working hard on petition. Turned that in with 1,600 and some signatures, I believe. We should know soon. We have to do what?
Before the 21st, for sure.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if not. She had 1,050, wanted the 1,629.
I think we'll know
signatures to give us
in the
to
next
Friday.
couple of days. But then, if it is, the petition is good, then obviously the city needs to be involved in that. One of the questions that, and we've had this discussion, and that is paying for the election. My thought is when we pass our resolution, we need to do the traditional ballot question where it's walk-in, not mail, because if city approves this and everything goes as designed or what we would like to see, we can't do a mail ballot. And the city wouldn't meet till the 24th after our meeting. So that's probably what I'm going to suggest when we do the actual writing of the petition, or not the petition, of the ballot, is that we do a traditional ballot with the assumption that we will have an election, a sales tax election at the same time. All the timing on that, we'll send an update to the city. Was it Wednesday or Thursday, Sarah, the deadline?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Talk to Donna, she's going to send them, if she doesn't have the results, she will send them an update to see if it's the signatures that were turned in, there's enough, the 10% to call the question for a sales tax. Question on the ballot. So on May 17th is the county work session. We will need our volunteers or who did the petition, someone to present or be at the city commissioner meeting with a request to put that on their agenda for their actual meeting on the 24th, yeah.
Oh, you meant, so March 7th.
March, yeah.
Yeah, he said, hey, I was trying to.
Oh, no, wow,
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, March.
March 7th.
Yeah.
Following
March
this timeline.
24th.
Yes. So those are some of the questions. Gilmore and Bell will draft the language. It's not our sales tax question. They will draft the language for the sales tax question. We'll try to coordinate some of these or those types of things as well. But I think it would behoove us to go ahead and put on the agenda that we would pass I don't know if it's a resolution or what do we need to do, Bill? Make a motion and pass it that we would pay for the cost of the election.
Well, you just need to do that by motion.
Okay, just a motion,
Yeah,
man.
reflect
And
it in a minute.
it's not going to be a huge cost if it's walk-in anyway, because our district obviously encompasses the whole city and then outside. So we're going to be paying for all the workers, all those things anyway. So, and then I'd like to make sure the city understands that when we go down, that our intent is Monday the 21st then to put that in a motion and say that we'll pay for whatever cost the election is for the questions.
Dean, I guess one of the,
No, go ahead.
One of the other things that in relation to this, and I know you've been obviously all the town hall meetings, the Rotaries, all the other things, we've gotten a lot of great feedback from the public on a lot of different things as far as suggestions and things like that. And one of the things that we continue to hear deals with the high school and the middle school gym, as far as being the two items that we're hearing a lot of people say that, well, if those were not on there, we would fully support the bond and the other stuff. We're also hearing a big change as far as initially when we talked about the sales tax stuff as well. A lot of people were against the sales tax stuff, but now I think once we've started to get the education out there, it's been just the opposite of the town hall meetings. Now we're hearing a lot of people say, well, if the sales tax is on there and that passes, then we would support the bond. As far as the scope of the bond, and I think this is something we talked about several months ago and kind of took it up there. So I do think it's something that we need to look at or at least discuss a little bit further as far as if that is something we want to look at. As Dean said, we could look at possibly putting another question on the ballot, such as either leaving it, the option one being the $94 million and option two being, and I don't know I don't have the figures in front of me, but approximately 10 to 12 million that would come off if those two gyms were not on there.
8.8 is what is the figure that the architects came up with. And this kind of came about, going to town hall meetings and just being out at a whole gamut of different venues. And then also our volunteers. Our PR and speakers bureau committees, they're just getting geared up and going to get started. And actually Mike Morley's going to be doing the presentation, the town hall meeting on Thursday at Wilson. And I believe he's going to go, I'll go to all these and be involved, but he's going to do his presentation, which geared a little different than what I've been doing. But he was one of them that when he's been out talking to a lot of people about it, and he's the one that approached me, and I know we've heard that at town hall meetings and everywhere, but he approached me about, do we look at more than one question? And that's what he hears more and more all the time. Do we need to look at separating out the gyms? And I said, well, I mean, I don't know. So we sat down with the architect and says, well, how much is that? So what Zach had figured was 8.8 million for middle school and high school gym. And again, I'm not saying they're not needed. I think all of us know they probably are. But if we wanted to have the questions, $8.8 million difference if we say we're not going to do those. And so I had Dustin check on the tax impact of that, and it is the it's $2.52 a month on a $150,000 house. All the information we've been providing and talking about it at all the town hall meetings was it would cost you roughly $25 a month doing the 94 million. If you take that off, that 8.8 million equates to $2.52 or 1.75 mils. These are all estimates. So that's the information. We have heard that quite a bit. I mean, it's been a pretty common theme, and I think all of you probably have heard that have been at those meetings or just out talking about it.
And I think the important thing on this, I mean, we had a lot of people talking about, you know, the surveys and things like this, and in my mind, we are doing to an extent because we've been out at a lot of these locations. We are listening to what the people have to say, in my opinion, and this is what they're coming back as far as their feedback that they would like to see as far as at least an option. And I heard several people to the point of, well, I would support it if those were not on there, you know, and several other iterations of that. But I guess that's something, like I said, I guess we need to look at and go a little further. And I mean, it's one of those where we've heard the public loud and clear, and that's the reason I want to make sure that we at least discuss that.
Well, and I guess it's a question is, the ballot that was run, does it have to be for, is there a chance, say, we vote on the 88 million and then, I think I saw something that we had to go through and then vote on this 8.8 million, or is there?
It would be.
Is there a way to do it within the ballot?
Yeah, and the ballot would have, I say two questions. I don't know how it would be.
If we have the sales tax.
Gilmore and Bell.
They would actually.
Yes, and this isn't uncommon. I mean, several schools have done that where they have different aspects of it on separate questions. And that's what we were talking about today, is how that verbiage is. I don't know. That you could vote for the whole thing with those included, or the question could be you vote for everything but those, and then this question is I want to see these two things added. So I'm not going to pretend I know how the verbiage would be, but there's.
No, the way it's written is as long as, how's it written, as long as it's 94 million or under, is that how it's written? Bill? I can't remember how it's written.
Why be an amount not to exceed?
So we could get that, I mean, when we come back Monday, I can talk to Dustin and HDK, everyone, and throw that out and have that scenario as, I mean, two questions for the, take the gyms off, and then obviously we don't write the sales tax one, but I'll follow up with people that need to know that. But
the other question, I guess I'd like to see, and this may be a question for Gilmore and Bell, or possibly Dustin. The other one is, if those questions are broke up, and you have one that's the 94 million, and you have one that's the 88 or whatever figure it is, if they vote on one versus the other, you know, we have that, they're not voting against it, but they're voting on one or the other, how does that tally into the votes? You know,
and I don't have
if we get, you know, does that end up splitting that up a bunch, or, you know, if they,
or is it, or can it be a list like,
right.
Yes, I support this 88 million.
Yeah, I'll find all that out tomorrow.
Yes.
And
I guess just more clarification as far as how
that to me is clear.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that's the way I am. I don't know.
Include that option in his presentation?
Is what?
I don't think.
Mike Morley going to include that?
Well,
I would assume it'd be something. I guess it'd be something that, you know, it's one of those where at least in quite a few of the town hall meetings, the other stuff, we've heard a lot of people talk about this. So I mean, I guess it wouldn't hurt to at least, you know, I would assume we'll probably hear some more about it at the Wilson Town Hall
and
meeting as well.
I mean, as he does his, when he's trying to do questions and answers and just have those conversations, that'll be one of the things that we can discuss, bring forward too. And And I really think it's going to bring out the folks that understand the need, especially middle school, and I'm not saying high school isn't a need anyway, but middle school with the number of kids and adding 7th grade sports, all of those things.
I just think it further educates people on.
It does.
This is what that actual cost is,
And,
and break down over that, I mean.
Yeah, and I think it'll bring out a lot more people to do some campaigning about why these are needed, so. But I think it's important that we listen or consider what we've heard.
Yes. And just to clarify and be sure that the communication gets right, is that there is some consideration that we may want to alter our plans about just the high school, middle school, but the gyms at the elementary school, I don't want to touch.
That isn't even an option because.
Yeah, I just heard somebody say, I won't do anything with any
No,
gym.
and that's what I keep saying, and I think, I get the impression people understand that we're not having 2 elementary gyms, I mean, at a site. If there's a new gym, the other one is repurposed into cafeteria and music or art or whatever the need is. I don't hear that, well, why do you need it, you know?
I
know.
Some said anything with the gym in it, I will not vote for it.
Yeah,
Well,
we can't
they're not the
accommodate
cafeteria.
that, so, yeah.
Okay.
Because that changes the whole scope of.
No, I wanted to be sure that was clear, is that we're looking at just.
Those, yeah, it'll be clear. Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's what I will, I'll talk to Dustin. He was actually at Ellis tonight, and he said he could be here at 7. I didn't think we would be ready at 7, so I'll call him.
So I guess the question is, and that was the reason, I at least wanted to bring that up after the feedback we're hearing from the public, and it sounds like some of you are also hearing similar feedback. I guess, what is everybody's thoughts on that? Is that the direction we want to go and have, them write up some of that? Because like I said, it sounds like we have to make a decision on the 21st as far as how this is going to be worded, so we kind of need to.
I do want to know, like you said, how that looks, and if that ends up further dividing the vote and not,
I will get that information, and is it tomorrow, Sarah? There's another volunteer, like new meeting with that smaller group, and we can send that out to anybody and everyone that has been involved, volunteers, everyone. So
and I think one of the things they were also looking at too is keeping it as confusion-free as possible as far as the way those questions are written.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. It needs to be where anybody can understand it. Because it could get very complicated.
I guess
we don't want that.
As long as we can have something where we have everything that was brought to us.
Yes.
If it's a laundry or a menu choice. Well,
yeah, they'll have some idea. I don't know. I mean, like I said, the last town hall meeting or the middle school, a lot of good information there. Everyone seems to spark more discussion, more questions, and they've been good. Haven't been as well attended as what we would like, but they've been good. And maybe with the new speaker, we'll see better attendance.
But I do have to say one thing that we are seeing, and I think that's evident, like I said, especially just with the sales tax piece. Like I said, when we started this, you're starting to see a lot of people that have actually come to these now.
Yeah.
They're understanding
and they're
now that they've gotten the
people,
information.
Yeah, it's been
They understand how it's,
encouraging.
and at the end of the day, they understand how it's going to affect them. And really, that's that's what a lot of these people are looking for. I guess that's the most important thing. Like I said, we talked about, we wanted to know what the public thought about a lot of this, and I think we're at least listening and willing to go back to the table on some of this. And having said that, I guess the other thing too is, have we heard anything else? Like I said, those tend to be the biggest things that reaching out, and like I said, at all the different functions and things like that we've gone, those seem to be the two things that have come up time and time again.
Change maybe the topic a little bit. Want to commend all the people that worked on the petition. And
I'll tell you, the volunteers have been awesome. And they're out constantly talking about this, and I mean, they're bringing what people in, and I may be misspeaking that we didn't know even if they'd be remotely for this. They're coming in and being excited about it and say, oh, man, we understand this. And it's just the PR piece has just started. Actually, these guys will be doing some filming, lining up testimonials and people just talk that will run on YouTube, our site, all those things. Mike will get his campaign going, and James Liker's another one that's volunteered to go out and speak, and they have their, do it.
Next one's Thursday.
Thursday, and Mike planned on doing that, so, yeah.
Any of you guys that haven't had the chance to actually see it yet, I would highly recommend at least to sit in if you get a chance or if you have some free time.
I think everybody's been there.
Yeah.
At least once.
And a big thank you for all of your coordination.
Yes.
Time, energy.
She's been invaluable. It's been amazing. She
Long
put in a
weekends.
lot of, yeah.
And late evenings.
Yeah. Anything else then that you can think of on what we need for the 21st then? I mean, I think we have the timelines, we have those things. We'll be working, getting information that the city needs, figuring out who's going to do that presentation. We've talked to volunteers about that. I am not going to be here next Thursday, so some shape or form we'll get all that coordinated and do what we need to do for that. Let's see. Other comments, questions, anything that you guys have? Sarah, do you have anything? I just, again, want to just say thanks to the volunteers. I mean, they've been troopers, so.
Yeah, above and beyond.
Okay. I think we're in line.
Next item is the 2016-17 school year draft calendar, and I think that's just the...
We, had our calendar meetings and really worked on trying to start the school year later. We did go, I believe it equated to a week.
Almost a week.
Almost a week later than we did started this year. Again, we need to work back. Graduation is May 14th, and we really need to work back from that day to get our days, all of those things. So this is the draft calendar. This is what we will bring forward on the 21st for you to approve. We do have our early release days. Teachers will be voting on the minute change or minutes that we did last year to make that work. 5 minutes, I believe it is, of contact time instead of, it doesn't change their length of their day at all. But, Christmas falls a little bit funny, so that isn't quite as long. Gosh, what else, Shanna? She's the one that did, her and Sarah, most of the work here. We meet all the guidelines for the negotiated agreement with the number of teacher days and holidays, all those things that need to be in there.
Yeah, we started, I guess, with just what would it look like if we did exactly this year, and again, what the shock of starting August, what would that be? Like 10 teachers would be here, kids the 11th, that Thursday, and then we just kind of threw out some different scenarios, but it went well. I mean, the committee, we have representatives from every building, and then we asked them to take it back to their buildings. I know you shared at Superintendent's Advisory Council, that was happening that same week, and then we met, and we just gave them some scenarios. We could do these things, we could cut Christmas winter breaks some, we could do a few things, and this seemed to be the consensus, so I think it was a good process.
Let's see, what was there? 179 teacher days is what the contract says, and there. I think we have 170 student days, but that's where we are. So.
Next item is the administrative contracts. I believe that's just the approval or the renewal of the administrative contract for the 16-17 year.
That'll be on the agenda on the 21st, and we will be asking for your approval. And I think we do need executive session personnel.
Anybody have any other discussion or anything before we know? If not, I would make a motion to enter into exec session for anything.
I'd say over 30. Don't you think, or not?
Fine, well, yeah, probably. Let's, Make a motion.
It's up to you guys.
Enter into exec session for a period of 45 minutes.
I always like to exercise it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Begin at 9:10, and to include the board superintendent, the assistant superintendent, director of curriculum, board attorney, for the purpose of personnel and negotiations. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Vote passes.